Hello and welcome to the live stream. Today we are talking about Stream Deck, and it's basically going to be a complete setup tutorial. So sort of start to finish, looking at the different models of Stream Deck, and then also how to get it set up right from the beginning, basically, because a lot of people get Stream Deck with an idea in mind of how they're going to use it. This would be the case with me when I thought I was going to just be using it for switching scenes in Ecamm for recording videos. And then often what happens is when you get it, you realize that there are so many other uses that you could potentially have for it. And so just spending a bit of time sort of thinking about how to get it set up correctly from the beginning is going to save you a few headaches further down the line. And again, I'm talking from experience here because I went down a particular path of setting it up in a certain way and then ended up having to sort of start from scratch again. So I'll talk about that. That's all related to folders and profiles, but getting a little bit ahead of myself there. But we'll also have a look at the different models as well. And I'll talk about my recommendations in terms of which Stream Deck is best and which one you should get. Obviously, there are budgetary constraints, but there are some different models, and I've got a few thoughts on that as well. So I think this was dropped in during the trailer, but just quick say hello to Dan, and great to see you've checked in, even if it was maybe a couple of hours ago. But this is all being inspired, really. This video is Dan was chatting in the Discord, just somebody new to Stream Deck, and so this is kind of what's prompted me to do this video. I have got other videos on the site all about Stream Deck, and indeed I've got a whole playlist of Beginner's Guide to Stream Deck, but things certainly have changed a little bit since I made those videos. So as I say, I thought it'd be good to just do a complete run through. So first of all, what is Stream Deck then for the totally uninitiated? I suspect that most of viewers of my channel know what Stream Deck is. Most of my traffic for the channel is driven by people searching for Stream Deck, and it's my Stream Deck videos that are most popular. But in any case, just in case you are completely new and not sure what the Stream Deck is, it's this little device here, and it is essentially a keyboard. It's really so much more than a keyboard, so it can do lots of other things, but essentially it is just a series of different keys, and as I say, there are different models which we'll look at, but one thing that is kind of unique about this is that all of these little keys are in fact individual screens. So you can see, in fact, let me come to this view, this might be a little bit easier. Not that one, this one. These individual keys here are physical keys that you can push down, unlike a similar device, which is the Loop Deck, which has a touch screen. But the keys on this Stream Deck are all, as I say, physical keys, but each one has a little screen on them, which means that you can change the icons that are on them and change the symbols. And that's how you can tell exactly what functions they are doing. If I come out to this particular view here, so this is the profile that I've got for controlling this live stream. And so all the different scene switching I can do from here. I can do various other different things, but it is not just for live streaming. And although it was a tool that was created originally for live streamers, hence the name Stream Deck, created for live streamers by live streamers, it is actually really a powerful productivity tool. And although I bought it with recording videos in mind, the primary use I have for it these days is actually just for general productivity throughout the day when I'm not either recording or live streaming. So we'll be having a look at some of that a little bit later in terms of all the different things that you can do with it outside of just switching scenes and stuff like that. So let's have a little look at the different models. This is the XL that I was just showing you. So let me just come back to here. It does sort of sit flat on the desk like that, but it also has this magnetic stand that just simply clips onto the back to have it as more of an elevated angle to it. So generally with a keyboard, you probably used to just touch typing like this. And although you can kind of feel your way around the Stream Deck because they do have these raised keys, it is nice to have it sort of tilted towards you so you can actually see what all of the buttons are doing. So that is the XL. Now that has 32 keys. There are some other models though. So let's just take a quick look at the different models that there are in the range. So we've got the Stream Deck XL, which is the one I've just shown you. The original one was actually 15 keys, and it doesn't have the raised back on it. It does come with a sort of rather flimsy kickstand that you can sort of sit it on top of, but it's not as sort of built in as the Stream Deck XL. The Stream Deck original one, as I say, was the first one to come out. They then released the Stream Deck XL a couple of years later, and with it they also released the Stream Deck Mini, which is basically 6 keys. Then at some point last year they basically refreshed the original one to bring it more in line with the design of the XL and with the Mini. And so that one has got 15 keys as well, but it has that sort of fixed base. So just having a quick look in more detail, this is what the XL looks like. And by the way, the cables on these are USB-C that plug into the back of the device, and then a regular USB 3 that would plug into your computer. If you have got a USB-C to USB-C cable, you can also just sort of replace that yourself, because it does have a detachable cable. In fact, that's another thing that is a differentiator between the XL, the 15-key Mark II, and the 6-key versus the original 15-key. That one had a sort of fixed cable that you couldn't change. So this then is the original one, and if I scroll down, you might be able to see the stand. You can still get the original 15 key, and it's obviously a little bit cheaper than the other one. So there you can see that stand that I was talking about. It's very much a bit of an afterthought, and from a design point of view, it's not the greatest, and certainly doesn't look as sleek as the new Mark II, which is the 15-key Mark II, which also has one additional feature that isn't on the 32-key XL or the 6-key Mini, which is that this one has a sort of magnetic faceplate, so that you can actually change the cover on it to give you some different colors and different designs on the front, and that just sort of snaps on with a magnet as well. And then the Mini that I mentioned, here you go, just the little Diddy one. It's just 2 keys tall by 3 wide, so a little 6-key one there. And there is also one other model of Stream Deck, which is a very different in form factor, and that's one that I've got under my desk right now, and that is the Stream Deck pedal. So all the things that I'm showing you that we're going to be able to do with the Stream Deck on the desk, you can also do not just with the touch of a finger on a button, but you can also do it with your feet as well. So in fact, this switching scenes is what I'm doing actually with the pedal. So those are the different models, and really, as I say, apart from the pedal being obviously just on the floor, the others are exactly the same functionality. It's just coming down to how many buttons that you actually have with the device, as opposed to something like the Loop Deck, which I've covered on the channel before, where all of the models have actually got some very differentiating features between them all. So that's something that's just a Stream Deck. You're basically just making a choice of how many actual buttons do you want. And so I'll talk about that a little bit later, because which model is going to be the right one for you is going to depend on what you want to do with it, obviously. But the little caveat with that is whatever you think you want to do with it, you might find that you end up doing a lot more. And in fact, a lot of people who end up buying the 15-key usually it's not too long before they've got their eyes on the 32 key when they fill up all of the available slots. But don't worry about only having 15 keys, because you can actually add in multiple pages, and we'll look at profiles as well a little bit later. So you don't really just have that few keys. There are actually potentially hundreds of different things that you can assign to these things. So that's obviously what we'll be digging into today as well, is looking at how to go through and program all of that. So as I say, it is basically a keyboard. That's what it is. And you can do anything you can do with a regular keyboard, but actually you can do so much more, because basically all of these little buttons you can use to trigger a whole series of actions, not just necessarily one thing. So it really opens it up as a powerful productivity tool. So why would you use something like this over just keyboard shortcuts if you can use it to, trigger all these things on your keyboard? Well, one thing that I found was keyboard shortcuts are fine if I'm typing and I'm in typing lots of text and I've got both hands on the keyboard. Then it's very easy to sort of reach across to all of the different keys. But if you've got one hand on the mouse, suddenly keyboard shortcuts become difficult unless they're all over on one side of the keyboard, because you've obviously got to try and reach across to them. So actually having the Stream Deck as an accompaniment to when you're working with a mouse means that you can sort of really fly around documents or spreadsheets or whatever it is that you happen to be doing. And in fact, in a sort of previous previous life a few years ago, my sort of regular full-time day-to-day thing was as an architect, and so I was quite used to manipulating 3D models on the computer there, and then I would generally have sort of one hand on the mouse on this side, and then the other hand would be on what we call a 3D mouse. So it's basically for manipulating computer CAD models in all directions. And so I was used to basically just being able to design a house with my hand on these two separate devices. And so actually the Stream Deck really sort of replaced that in some other things that I've been doing more recently, where I tend to be sort of sat with one hand on the mouse and one sort of poised close to the Stream Deck. And it really makes it easy to, as I say, just trigger all of these things. Hey, Dina, just popping in, say hello. Great to see you here. So that is the models. Now, in terms of the build quality, it's pretty solid, really. I mean, it's I've had this Stream Deck XL now for over a year, maybe 18 months, something like that. And yeah, I've never felt that there's any issue with build quality. Same goes for the Loop Deck, really, which is a similar device. I'm not necessarily talking about that today, but you know, they've just got this really solid feel to them. There's a real weight to it as well. And with the XL, it's got this kind of on the magnetic base, it's got a sort of rubbery bottom to it, so it certainly stays where it's put. And you know, it's just got a real sort of heft to it, if you like. It certainly means that it's not entirely portable, whereas something like the Loop Deck I find is very easy to just sort of throw into a case or something, or a bag, whereas the Stream Deck is definitely a desktop device. I wouldn't necessarily want to be carting this around with me anywhere. However, that said, it's probably a good time to mention that there is, in fact, and in fact, look at that, the Loop Deck's just switched off just when I was talking about it. I must have hurt its feelings. The Stream Deck, as well as the hardware devices, there is also a mobile application. So it's actually a great way to try out the Stream Deck in terms of the functionality. Because with the mobile app, there is a free trial of it. If you search in the App Store, search for Stream Deck, you can find the app. There's a free trial of it, and then after that, I think it's $3 a month, something like that. Hey, Wayne, just popping in as well. Great to see you here, Wayne. Yeah, if you get the free trial of it, then it's $3 a month thereafter to continue with the sort of subscription of it. And basically, with the mobile app, you get 15 keys that just appears on your iPhone or iPad or Android device or whatever it happens to be. So you might not necessarily want to continue with the subscription, but getting the free trial is a great way, as I say, just to try out the different actions that you can do and the different things that you can do with it. So for me, that's the route I went. I tried the mobile app first of all, and I think I was using it for about a day or two maximum before I ended up just ordering the actual device, because it really does sort of allow you to test out the software and see all of the different things that it can do. So really solid device. Those are the different devices. So let's get on into looking into how you go about actually programming it. Now, before I do that, though, I just want to mention that this is actually a kind of rerun, if you like, of a live stream that I did on Amazon, because I do stream every week to Amazon, and I do something on, well, a couple of times actually, but I do something called the Sunday session. It is at Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find me on Amazon at takeonetech.live. And there you will be able to get I'll just drop that into the chat. There you'll be able to follow me on Amazon. And as I say, I do this Sunday session, which is basically a deep dive into a particular product. Now, I just happen to have done this same live stream with a few technical difficulties, hence me rerunning it now on here. But I did that this last Sunday. This Sunday coming up, I will be doing a similar deep dive into the Loop Deck Live. So as I say, you can find that every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you head over to takeonetech.live, that is where you can follow me on Amazon. It's Amazon US, but you can watch it from Amazon anywhere in the world. So if you like the sort of content that I'm creating on my YouTube channel, then you can find more of it over there. But I digress. Let us get back into the sort of whole process of how you go about setting up the Stream Deck. So it's all done with the Stream Deck application. So let me just come into here for 1 second. There we go. So this is the Stream Deck application, and you'll notice just down beneath me, I've got the actual physical device. If I just position it so you can actually see it, just down there, that's the actual Stream Deck. And what you'll notice is we've got all the keys on here, and those are represented by those little squares on the screen. So this is where you can see, let me just start my Pro Mouse 1 second. It seems to have stopped on me for some reason. There we go. That should be better. Just want to be able to show you some of these things. Bear with me 1 second. It's funny, isn't it? These things always seem to quit just at the wrong time. It's just going to make it easier for me to highlight things if I can show you what I'm talking about on the screen. There we go. That's a bit better, isn't it? You can see what I'm looking at now. So here we've got this basically exact representation of the 32 key. If you were using one of the other devices, so I've got the mobile here, you can see that that's just the 15 key layout. And then also we've got the pedal. And now those are the 3 keys for the pedal. And in fact, that one is my little magnifying glass. So that's how I'm triggering that, is just by pressing my foot on the pedal. But I'll get into how to program this in any case. So this is the layout. When you first open Stream Deck, it's going to have, ignore this one for the moment. That's just for me to get back to my main control for the live stream for the time being. But it's going to have basically just this one little key in the middle, and that is essentially just a link to the Elgato website. So once you've seen that, you're pretty much done with it, and you can just delete it. And all we've got here is a series of different actions over on the right-hand side, and then we've got the space where these actions are going to go on the device over here. Now, there are different what they call plugins, which are groupings of actions. And so the first one that you're going to notice, in fact, let me just reorder these potentially. In fact, I'll just go through like this. This will probably be a bit easier. So we'll first look at the actual Stream Deck plugin itself. So these are all of the different actions that are related to the Stream Deck device itself. So you've got things like brightness, for example. I can just drag and drop that one over here. This is from the, again, the Stream Deck list. Brightness, and then here we can change that to be either brighter or darker. And then what that's going to do is that's actually, as I press that, you'll see that it's actually dimming on the screen down below. It's actually dimming the device itself. So this is the way that you add things on. You just simply drag and drop them. And then if I press this button now, you'll see that the brightness down below is increasing. So as simple as that, it's just literally drag and drop, and now I've got some control over the device. That happens to not be one I use too much, because I tend to just have it set to whatever I want it. But no problem. If you want to delete a particular action, you just simply highlight it. And when I say highlight it, you can see how this one's got this sort of blue halo around the outside, whereas this one hasn't. And if I was to click in here, that is the sort of active button that you are just editing. So I can click in there and just simply click on delete. So as well as having the button itself, hello Albert, great to see you. As well as having the button itself, we've also got this area down here, which is where you're going to adjust any parameters that there are with something. So for example, here we've got one that is a timer. So I'm just going to drag this one onto the screen. And you can see that now that I've got that one selected, down here we've got some information related to it. So first of all, you've got the icon. We can customize icons. I'll be talking about how to do that a little bit later. But you can change how all of the icons look, so that, for example, like this one here, you can see it's got my Take One Tech logo. So I've just created an icon and dragged it onto there. But I'll show you how to do that a bit later. But you've also got these other things related to that particular action up here. So first of all, we've got a title. You can title these things. Let's say I want a 4-minute coffee timer. I could just type coffee, and you'll notice that it's appeared on the button there. And also it has appeared on this button just down there. So whatever we are doing over on that side is appearing on the Stream Deck down here as well. So that would be a timer, and then let's set that to 4 minutes. So 240 seconds. And then the sound would be what you want to play when the timer has finished. So if I was to just press on this now, then it's going to start that countdown. You don't see anything on the screen here, but if you have a look on the actual button itself, it has actually started counting down from 3 minutes, and you'll just actually be able to see that countdown. So if you need to time anything or need to time anything for your stream, then you can add little timers and things like that to the screen. So I'm just going to delete that one though for now again, as we keep going through. I'll talk about folders and profiles a little bit later, because there is There is a common path, I think, that people go through when they're trying to organize their Stream Deck, which is to create a whole series of nested folders, but it's not necessarily the best way to do it. But I'll come on to that a little bit later. I don't want to get too much ahead of ourselves. They've also got multi-actions. Now, multi-actions are used for, this is where it becomes really powerful as a productivity tool, where you want it to basically, you press one button and it actually does a whole series of actions. And this is great for, if you want to, maybe when you start up your Mac in the morning or your PC, you want to maybe open a few specific applications, or maybe you're just shifting from one work mode to another, and you want to be able to open up a series of documents and applications and folders or whatever it happens to be. You can do that all with multi-actions. There's also a whole series of more complex use cases as well, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. So let's just move on from the Stream Deck one, because we'll kind of come to these as we go through trying to do some different things. But let's come down here to the system section. With system, this is basically just general things that you can do on your Mac or on your computer. And in fact, this is really where the majority of the productivity power of Stream Deck comes in, because you can do things in here like just open a website. Of course, we've got bookmarks that we can have in our browser, but sometimes just being able to get easy access to a specific website with the touch of a button can be quite useful. So that just works by simply dragging on the action to any of the particular buttons. If you don't like where it is, you can easily just drag it and move it around. So once you've put these things in place, they're not actually sort of fixed there. That's one thing that's a bit frustrating about the Loop Deck, is it's not as easy to reorganize and move things around. But with the Stream Deck, you certainly can. And once again, we've now dragged that website action onto there. And then it's just a case of giving it a title. So if I type in my website and then type the URL, I can't talk and type at the same time, it seems. takeonetech.io. There you go. So now I've just assigned that to a button. You can see how the text is not auto wrapping. So you just come in here and then put in a return. The actual text on the button as well, maybe it might be too big or too small. We can come and edit the text. So you can come in here and make some minor edits. You can change the font size, whether it's bold, italics, underline, and you can change the color, and you can also change the position of the text. So you can see as I'm pressing these, the text on here is moving around, and then obviously changing color and things like that as well. So you do have that ability to edit what is on the little screens on the buttons, and then when you press the button, it's simply going to open up, and this is just has opened up over here somewhere. There you go. It's just opened up my my website, takeonetech.io. So that is how you can open a website. Now, I mentioned multi-actions a moment ago. Well, imagine if you had a series of websites that you need to open for whatever it is you do, maybe your Gmail, some other things that you're using as part of your work. Then you could have a multi-action where you basically just open up a series of websites. So let's just have a look at how to do that. If I come into here and I'll add in multi-action just in here, then you can go through and just literally, in fact, I think I just jumped ahead a little bit there. The multi-action was from here, from the Stream Deck section. You can also add this, by the way, by just right-clicking in any button and add create multi-action. And then to add in the different actions within that, you just double-click on it like this. And then here you can see it says drag an action from the right and drop it here. So if we had 3 websites that we wanted to open, you could just simply drag them all across like this, and then go through one by one and actually add in the URLs of each of those. And then you can also add a title in. So if I opened this website, you'd see the title then appears just underneath it there. So this is how you can actually see in a multi-action all the things that you are opening. Just a couple of quick questions. Oh, hey, Chris, great to see you here. And Albert's asking, do you need to have or own a Stream Deck to use the Stream Deck app? No, you don't. It is a completely standalone thing. So you just download the Stream Deck app for the computer, and then you would download the, I assume you were talking about the iOS app here, and then you download the iOS app and it just links up in exactly the same way, actually over Wi-Fi. So no, you don't need the regular Stream Deck to be able to use the Stream Deck mobile app. which is why it's actually a great way to try out the Stream Deck before actually buying the hardware device. I still pay for the subscription for the mobile app, even though I do have the hardware device, because it comes in handy sometimes to have that secondary one. Or also, if I'm traveling, then I can still have Stream Deck controls on my mobile, whilst to control the computer, or for live streaming or Zoom calls or things like that. So that is how to use multi-actions. We'll be coming back to multi-actions because there's lots of ways that you can use these for series of productivity steps that you might want to take to sort of speed up your workflow. Hey Aubrey, great to see you here popping in as well. I'm trying to put comments up on the screen by clicking on the YouTube pop-out window, but I need to click here, don't I? That would help. Great to see you, Aubrey. So let's go through and have a look what other system controls you've got. The next one is, I'll skip over the next one actually. I'll come straight onto Hotkey. A hotkey is basically just anything where you would previously do it with a keyboard shortcut sequence or like combination of keys, or I suppose it could just be an individual key. But like if you were doing Command V for copy and Command other way around, Command C for copy and Command V for paste. You might want to just have a button for that, or for any other potential shortcut you could have. And as I mentioned before, the reason why it's quite useful to have these as buttons as opposed to using the keyboard shortcuts is there are times when you might not have both hands on the keyboard if you're using the mouse or something like that, and it's awkward to reach. So with this one here, this keyboard shortcut, or it's called a hotkey actually, you can just come down here and where it says hotkey, click to assign. If you were going to use copy, for example, you could just do Command C. Try that again, Command C. Sometimes, by the way, with these, and then give it a title. Sometimes when you're doing a sort of a series of, some of my keyboard shortcuts that I've programmed might be Control, Command, Option, Shift, something where you type in really a lot of modifier keys. Those ones, apart from the actual letter, Command, Shift, Alt, Option, those ones, they're called modifier keys. And so sometimes you might find that it's not really taking all of them. If you try and just click in here, and when it says observing keystrokes, when you just actually press the combination, you might find that it's not actually grabbing them all. If that's the case, you can actually almost leave a little pause between them. So if I was to do, say, Command Option T, I could literally just come in here, click here, and just in quick succession, one after the other, almost type them in a string, and then you'll find that it'll usually grab them. Sometimes you can also just click this little drop down here, and you can actually add specific modifiers in this way. There's a big long list of them, but if you ever find that you're trying to do it and it's not grabbing them, just try doing them sort of one after the other in quick succession, and then you'll find that it should grab them much like that. So that is keyboard shortcuts or hotkeys here. So that's where, all of these things that, you can't necessarily remember the keyboard shortcuts for all of these applications, especially if you're using some complex apps that have, just a ton of shortcuts. Then being able to program them into the Stream Deck is useful because you don't then have to remember the actual keyboard shortcut itself. And if you create a dedicated icon for it, then that's going to make things a lot easier to do. I'm just looking there. Can you pre-fill in details such as username and password? You could do that with for websites. You would have to do that with a secondary action. I tend to do stuff like that with Keyboard Maestro, so you can have it go and fill in specific things in specific locations. What you can do with a website is you can use this get request. So if you're going to, you want it to do something where it's going to fetch some information, but it's not really username and passwords. And there is a little bit of a danger to having it pre-fill in username, passwords, and two-factor authentication keys and stuff like that. So that might be a bit of a dangerous one to have programmed into your Stream Deck in any case. But I do something similar for some websites with Keyboard Maestro. So I'll talk about Keyboard Maestro a little bit later. Hey Keely, great to see you here. So let's keep moving through some of these other actions that we've got. So we've looked at website, we've looked at hotkey. Well, just to come back then to this second one, which is hotkey switch. This is going to be something where you've actually got something that has basically two different states where it might be something that you're switching on and off, and you might use a separate keyboard shortcut to either turn it on or off, or it could be just the same keyboard shortcut. However, you want to be able to sort of toggle it. Well, that's what this is, keyboard switch or hotkey switch. So if I drag this onto here, you can see that it looks like a little switch. There it is in its on position. And in fact, if I come down here, you can see that we've actually got what the thing looks like when it's on, and what it looks like when it's off, or vice versa. And I mentioned before about being able to change the icons, which we'll look at later. This one, you can actually change the icon for both states. So you'd be able to show, whether it was on or off. And here, just as before we entered the hotkey, well, now basically we've got two hotkeys because we've got the on one and the off one. It could be that you're going to use just the same hotkey for each. It is just the same key to toggle. But it also does, it also could be a separate hotkey as well. So let's have a little look. Down here, we've also got open. So open is to open either an application, a file, or a folder. So if you've got a series of apps that you want to start up, when you get going in the morning, then just pressing a button to have them all trigger and open up. You could do that with a multi-action, but it's as simple as coming down here to where it says the app or the file. It doesn't mention folders, but you can open folders as well. So click on choose. It's going to bring up just your regular Finder window or application picker, file picker, whatever you want to call it. And so if I just come into my applications, then I could select any one of these, just pick something at random. Automator, why not? Click on that, and you'll notice that it has actually pulled in the app icon. And it's also got the title, so it's pulled in the title, the name of the application. But because we've got the app icon, you may think, well, actually, I don't really want to have the title over there because I've got the app icon that I can see what it is from that. Well, where you've got this title field here, I mentioned that you can change the font and the size and all of that kind of thing. Well, you can actually just choose not to show it. So if I toggle this one off, then now you'll see that we've just got the nice clean icon with no text over the top. So that is the thing there. So that is how to open an application, and if I click that, it will open the application. However, if you just select a file instead, it will open the file, and if the app to open the file in isn't open, it'll obviously just open it, just the same as if you were clicking on it in a Finder. So if you have got some specific things that you use quite regularly, I don't know, template files, tracking files, or whatever it happens to be that you find you're constantly going in and out of, then you can actually just assign the file itself to a button, and then you press that, and then you'll just be able to get into it from wherever. And incidentally, that's a sound bit of advice really for using Stream Deck is there is a temptation with this to try and just plan absolutely everything out that you're going to possibly want to do with it from the beginning, and then you sort of don't really get into the flow of using it. So what's useful to do is sort of notice the things that you are doing regularly that you do as part of your daily routine, and then look for a way to automate those things as and when they arise, rather than the approach that I took when I first got into, again, Keyboard Maestro years ago, was I tried to plan out, the 2,000 potential shortcuts that I might need, and then I did it all and promptly forgot them. So getting into a routine with this and getting it into a workflow, the best way to do that is kind of build it up bit by bit with things that you know that you're going to be using all of the time. And as I say, you can use this open command to open files, but also folders. So if you just have a folder that you're constantly referencing on your computer, you can do that as well. The next one we've got here is text. So this is a text snippet. So if you use something like Text Expander on the Mac, and there are various options that are similar on the PC as well, which is where you type a short little key string in, and then it will basically populate a whole string of text. Well, you can do that here with the touch of a button. You've got a bit more limitations on it in here compared to something like Text Expander, which is really quite a comprehensive app for all sorts of text expansion, but where you might want to be adding different parameters in and all this kind of stuff. Whereas this is essentially just a case of you type the text you want in here, and then when you press the button, it goes and populates that in the wherever you happen to be. So I've got one, for example, for if I just press this button here, it's going to just populate a string of text, which is to my Amazon Live, my Amazon account. So you can create these little text snippets, and that's where I tend to use this, is for little ad hoc snippets that I want to do, for example, during a live stream. It's very useful for that. But you could equally use this for, stock responses to emails or messages, or, if you're running late, I'll be there in a minute, that kind of thing, whatever it happens to be, and then just assign it to a button. And then you can see here, you've got an option to press enter after the message has been submitted. So if you wanted to just actually put it in and then submit the message, you can do that in there as well. Let me just come back here for 1 second. Oh, it's okay. I just got a little alert then. I thought, wondered what that was. So that is the text snippets, and you've also got multimedia controls down here as well. Now, everything that I've done so far is being kind of one action, and you drag it on and it kind of does one thing. Whereas this one is an example, this multimedia control, of where it's one physical action on here, but actually, if you look down here where it says action, we can click here and it can do a whole series of things, and we're going to select which one we want it to do. So because this is multimedia controls, this is for basically play, pause, all the kind of multimedia controls that you've generally got across the top of your keyboard function keys, but we can assign these here as well to play back, skip tracks and play music, or volume up and down, that kind of thing. So one thing here, you might want to have a whole set of controls to control these. You don't have to drag the same action on over and over again, though. You can actually just right click on this one to copy it, and then just paste it. So we can just sort of duplicate that. Those are all exactly the same, but what we might want is that's previous track. So maybe this one we want to have as play pause. Maybe this one is next track. Maybe this one is, I don't know, volume up. And then this one is volume down, like that. Just saying bye to Jeff. Jeff in the Discord there saying good night. Great to see you, Jeff. Good night. Yeah, for those that are not aware, I do have the live streamer backstage thing going on, or the backstage pass rather, in the Discord. So if you're not already a member of the Discord, you can find that at, if I come back over here for a second, takeonetech.io/family, and join the Discord server. And so there's lots of conversation going on in there. But also, if you are interested in joining my channel memberships, you can find the join button just down below this video, and at the backstage pass level, then you get access to the backstage area of the live stream, and we have a little bit of a chat before the live stream starts, and then also when we finish the live stream, we just sort of continue the conversation in there. So you can find that with channel memberships just down below this video. But I digress slightly, saying goodbye to Jeff. So in here, back in here again, this was the multimedia controls, and then now, yes, basically we can control these up and down with these keys. So that there is all of the different system controls that we've looked at. But you'll notice that as well as the system controls, there is a whole load of other plugins that I've got down here as well. So I'll have a little look at some of those. But first of all, I'll just mention that all of the sort of camera switching and things like that I'm doing right now, I'm doing with an application called Ecamm Live. So Ecamm Live is live production software for the Mac, the best live production software there is. And that's what I use for my live streams, but it's also what I use for creating all of my videos, but also for really leveling up my Zoom appearance as well, because all of the sort of production quality that you can bring to live stream and video, you can also take in using their virtual camera function into Zoom as well, and that allows you to basically really just look a little bit head and shoulders above everyone else in your Zoom calls. You can get a free trial from takeonetech.io and takeonetech.io/ecamm, and you'll get a free trial there, and then you can find lots of videos on my site. I'm just getting distracted by some very unnecessary chat comments, but so there is where you can find out more about Ecamm Live before I get too distracted. And if you really want to level up your Ecamm Live skills, you can also try out my Ecamm Live Masterclass, because one of the things that I found with the videos on my site is Ecamm is being updated so frequently that often videos that you'll find on YouTube are slightly out of date, and there are now easier and better ways to do the things that we can do with Ecamm. And so the Ecamm Live Masterclass was created specifically for to be your sort of online resource for all things Ecamm. So you can head out over to ecammlivemasterclass.com to check that out. And actually, if you try the Ecamm Live Masterclass, then you can get 2 free months of Ecamm Live as one of the perks with that. So the Ecamm Live Masterclass is $147, but it includes $150 of perks and special promotions for you as well. And one of which is, if you are new to Ecamm, you can get an extra 2 months free of Ecamm. So that's ecammlivemasterclass.com. So back to this, and thank you very much for the mods for just getting on top of those spam comments. So let's get back to the application itself. And I'm going to talk about these different plugins that we've got here. So each of these ones, we've looked at the Stream Deck plugin and the system, but there are all of these other things here. So these are, some of them are sort of built in that you'll have when you first open Stream Deck. There'll be some of these already here. And in fact, the way that you can, I'll just get to your comment in a second. So there's a comment coming in. Anyone know how to make a Stream Deck multi-action where you take a screenshot and then open that screenshot on monitor X? Yes, what you could do is whatever the keyboard shortcut is for it's Command Shift. If you were going to take a full screen keyboard, if you were going to take a full screen screenshot on a Mac, it would be Command Shift 4, is it? Or is that for an area? That's for an area. So Command Shift 5, I think, is just Command Shift 5 does the full screen. The only issue with that actually is you can see that it's you have to actually select the space that you wanted. So let me give that one some more thought. It should be easy, but I'm not. My brain is not computing it right now. I'll come back to that though. Let me just actually flag that and star that. I'll come back to that comment. Walnuts84, by the way, hello and welcome. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, these are different plugins. There will be some that will be there when you first start up the Stream Deck, and others that you can add in, and I'll show you how to do that. But what you can also do is reorganize these. So this little icon that we've got at the top here, you can come down here and basically toggle on any one of these that you don't want to see. So for example, I mentioned that Ecamm Live was the best live streaming software there is, which is why I've deactivated the OBS plugin. Because I don't use that one. You can also reactivate the or deactivate any of the individual actions as well. So if you find that you don't use any of these specific ones, then you can just deactivate those there. So yeah, Simply Orbs. The Command Shift 3 is for the whole screen. The thing I'm trying to think then is actually getting it to open that screenshot in the to a specific monitor. That's going to be a little trick there, because as a default, it's not going to specifically open the screenshot, and so you'd have to have it so that you could basically get the last screenshot. There's a way to do this, but it's a little bit tricky, I think. There would be a way to do this, but yeah, it might be a little bit tricky. Anyway, let me give it some more thought. I'll get back to that. Hey, Rich, great to see you here as well. And that's exactly it, Keely. Opening it on a specific monitor will need some other apps like Moom or Keyboard Maestro. Indeed, and specifically, it's even just the point of opening up the screenshot, because it will save the screenshot with a certain title. The way that I would do it is I would have some automation that basically, when you take the screenshot, there's an extra little step in here which grabs the latest thing with the latest file starting with the word screenshot from the wherever it is you have it saved to, and get it to open that in the thing. So there is definitely an extra bit of an automation that would need to be done there. But yeah, I'll give that some more thought. I'm not sure I'll get around to that today, but I'll figure out a way to do that. I'm digressing once again. It's another one of those squirrel moments. That's the problem with me. You give me a little technical problem to solve, and my mind just goes off on it. So I'll I'll continue to be distracted by that throughout the live stream. But then once you've selected the plugins that you want from here, that are the ones that are just sort of built in, you can also then move these up and down, so to rearrange them and put them where you want them. But what you can also do is, if you want to add in some new ones, then you can't find the ones you're looking for in here. There is what they call the Stream Deck store, but don't be fooled by this. It says it's a store, but actually at the moment everything in here is free, so it's not like you have to pay for this stuff. People make plugins for Stream Deck that are all free. There's also icons and music and things like that we'll get to in a little while as well. I'm sure at some point they will open it up for people to be able to put paid products in there, like icon packs that you have to pay for. But for the time being, everything in there is free. So when you open the Stream Deck store, and by the way, I skipped over how to do that, this little icon just up here at the top, if you click on that, it will open up the Stream Deck store. And the first page you'll go into is this Discover page. It's really useful if you are someone who uses Stream Deck regularly. Like by regularly, if you've got one, you probably use it like all the time, every day. But if you do, it's still useful to go into the Stream Deck store, because it does have things like the What's New with Stream Deck monthly roundup for July. And I often just pop in here and just have a little look, because you'll find that there are new plugins that you didn't realize existed. And so then you'll figure out, some new things that you can do with it that you didn't realize were possible. So coming in and having a look at this little splash page is certainly useful, and then it highlights certain products and plugins and all that kind of stuff. So it's quite kind of useful to just come and have a little check in here from time to time. Next one down would be plugins. That's where we're going to be able to get all of these different actions for different things. And you'll see that there is a big long list. So you'll come in, first of all, it should just be selected to all. So this is all of the different plugins that you can get for Stream Deck at the moment. By the way, if you are looking on a Mac, it will show you only the ones that are available on Mac, and same with PC. So there may be some that you see in here if you're on a PC that are not available to you, but more than likely it's the other way around. There are far more available on PC than there are for Mac, so you may have more than this that you're looking at if you are on a PC. But then it's just a simple case of, if you see one that you want to use, like the Twitch Studio perhaps, you can see the big install button here. If you have already got it installed on your in your Stream Deck, you'll notice that it's got an uninstall button here instead. So you can clearly see which ones you've already got and which ones you haven't. And then, as I say, just simply click on the little install button, and then it will just go ahead and prompt you to say, are you sure you want to install it? And you click on yes, click on install, and then it will just go and install it on your Stream Deck. And then you can see the little time bar moving up there. And so then that will again appear in that sidebar. So let's just come back out of here. I'll come back into the store a little bit later when we start looking at icons. But I just wanted to highlight a few that, there's really what you do with Stream Deck is going to depend on all sorts of things. What your use cases are, what you do for in your day-to-day business that you might want to do with it. But there are a couple here that are worth sort of mentioning. So obviously the Stream Deck one is the one that you're going to be using to control Stream Deck and system. Pretty much, I think everyone's going to use that to some point for doing stuff on their computer. But then, for example, I use Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live has got, I would say, the most comprehensive plugin of anyone that I've seen, of any application. They're just constantly adding new little functions to it. So all of these actions here are ones that I use to control Ecamm Live. So it just means that I can control everything from the stream, and also from all of my videos that I produce can all be just controlled by the Stream Deck. So hats off to Ken and Glenn, the guys behind Ecamm, to be continually adding new things in here. But there are other applications as well. So Discord, we've got some here to control Discord. So obviously very popular among streamers, but growing more and more popular among normal folks who are realizing that Keely was right. And it is an awesome platform for building community. And so you can check out mine at takeonetech.io/family. We've got the Discord community over there. But the plugin here is specifically for controlling when you are in what they call voice channels in Discord. So think of it like a sort of a Zoom call within Discord, if you like. So we've got some things to do here, mute and so on. So we've got those controls in there. So that's one way you would have to go and actually search for the Discord plugin and add it in. Speaking of Zoom, we do still use Zoom a lot these days. And so there is a plugin for Zoom as well. And this allows you to do some of the general things that you might want to do in a Zoom meeting. So for example, muting, turning off your video, sharing your screen, leaving the meeting to avoid that awkward moment where you say, bye-bye, and then everybody kind of goes searching around, how do I get out of this meeting? Well, now you can you can just assign that to a button, so you can be like, right, see ya, poof, I'm out of here. Press the button. Now, there is actually, although you can see here, there are only around 10 different actions. In Zoom, there is a whole series of keyboard shortcuts for things that you might want to do in Zoom. And so you'd be forgiven for thinking that what you could do is for all of those other things, the best thing to do would be to come into your system, use the keyboard shortcut, the hotkey action, and just program all of those different shortcuts in Zoom to hotkeys, hotkey actions in here. And then you could control all of Zoom with it. The issue with that is, bear in mind that hotkeys only work when you are in that particular application. So for example, if I use Command-C to copy, it's only going to copy what I'm from the application I'm actually in. Whereas often you might find with Zoom in particular that you are maybe you are doing a screen share, so you're demoing something in another application, and Zoom might not actually be the frontmost application. So in this particular case, with the Zoom plugin, they do have this one here, which is called Custom Shortcut. And what that allows you to do is you can type in the keyboard shortcut for Zoom, and it will pass it on to Zoom, even if Zoom isn't the frontmost application. And what that allows you to do is really have full control over Zoom, even if Zoom it doesn't happen to be at the front. And in fact, this is one of the icon packs that I created. If I come back out of here, not that one, where is it? This one here. So I actually created all of the icons for these, and you can find these in my store. So it is at, I should have typed this one out. This is one that I haven't got typed out. takeonetech.io/store. There we go. That is where you can find, and it's in the description actually. So if you're watching on the replay, you can find it in there. This is where you can find my icon pack. So I've actually already pre-programmed this. I'll be showing you later on when we get into profiles about how you can basically import profiles as well. So if you don't want to go through and program this all yourself and create all of the icons yourself, then you can just go and grab this from the store. So it's one of a number of different icon packs that I've got available. In fact, let me just take this opportunity to show you. If I come over here, like this, there we go. This is my website. If you come over to store, then here you'll find the two courses on the Ecamm Live Masterclass and the Zoom Masterclass. And then down you can see I've got these different icon packs for Zoom, Ecamm Live, YouTube, Keynote, and a couple of others there as well. So these basically just are all pre-set up, so you can just import them into your Stream Deck. So I digress once again, as often I do. Let me just get back over into my little demo thing to be able to show you this. There we go. So the Zoom one is one that is, I think most people these days use Zoom at some point. So that is a really handy plugin. You've also got ones here which go sort of hand in hand with Zoom, really, if you are doing presentations into Zoom meetings, because we've got one plugins for PowerPoint and for Keynote, and that allows you to sort of advance your slides forward and next slide. Again, obviously, you can do that if you've got a little, one of the little remote keyboard, remote presentation clickers. You can use that in there. But often it's easy just to have, the Stream Deck as being mission control, so you can control everything from that as well. So I have, when I'm on a Zoom call, I've got my Zoom controls, I've got some Ecamm controls to flick between the scenes that I've got going into Zoom. And then if I am doing something where I've got a presentation going, then I'll be using some of these actions as well. So it really just does become that, with the Stream Deck in front of you, that is what you're using to control everything. So let's just keep going through here, and I'll show you a couple of other ones that you might find useful. We'll get onto this automation one a little bit later. There are also some controls in here for YouTube and Twitter and Twitch, and those are specifically for when you are, well, the Twitter one is actually to just send out a tweet, so you can just drag and drop this on here. And then you're going to have it connected to an account, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment as well. But then you just type in the text, and basically whatever you type in there, when you press the button, it's just going to send that out as a tweet. You can also attach an attachment to it as well. But then with YouTube, you can add a chat message. So if I want to add a message into the chat, this would be a message. And if I press that now, it should, with a bit of luck, just come straight into the chat. I wonder if I've not got it connected to the correct account at the moment. It's not popping up. But if I had got that connected correctly to this account, then that would just pop in as a chat message. But it is a little bit... it's obviously not working because I'm doing a live demo of it. But in any case, that is what that is for. You've also got viewers as well, so it will pull in how many viewers are on the live stream. But again, I'm not. Don't think I'm connected to the account that I'm streaming on at the moment. So let's have a look at how you connect these accounts. Well, that would be in the settings. And so if you come into settings, you've got accounts in here, and this will show you the Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube accounts that you are connected to. So you can only be connected to one at any given time, and you just go through and add in your credentials in there, and then that will make these things work. So this is for the, as I say, the Twitter one, the YouTube. There is one for Twitch as well. I don't use Twitch, so but you can add in some similar things in there as well. So keeping on going down these different plugins, one there that I just, that was the one that I showed you as an example to add it in, was Philips Hue. So if you've got Philips Hue lights, you can control these from here. Another one that might be useful is sometimes the plugins that you install, they will install as a plugin like this, where you've got a little folder of all of the actions that are within it. Sometimes, though, what you're installing is literally just a single action, and so sometimes those will appear somewhere else, and I'll show you where they are. Often they might just appear in this custom area here, and these are basically things that are just a single action, although we can look at some of the parameters we can use for them a bit later. But one that I just wanted to highlight here was this IFTTT. So if this, then that is a website, ifttt.com. This is a sort of web-based automation website that allows you to set a whole series of parameters, and it's the name obviously comes from if something happens, then do something else. And you can create all of these little automations. Well, there is a plugin for it for Stream Deck, so that if you want to be able to trigger things that anything you can do with IFTTT, you can now do with the Stream Deck, because basically you just drop this in and then it can pass that command onto if this, then that. Also on the automation side of things, another one here is this KM link, which is about Keyboard Maestro. So I'll come on to that in a moment as well. And incidentally, we're talking a lot about live streaming. So I talked about Twitch and YouTube, and obviously the Stream Deck is something that was built by streamers for live streamers as well, although it is, a huge productivity tool. But if you are interested in live streaming, then you may also be interested in my podcast, the Live Streamer Backstage podcast. The first full proper episode was recorded this week. It is live every week at Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on LinkedIn Live and also on Amazon Live as well. And this week it was JP High Tech, so we had a great conversation with him. The podcast itself is going to be released in the next day or two. Actually, I'm going to try and do it so that it's recorded on Tuesday and it's out by Thursday. I was going to do it the following week, but I think I can speed up my workflow there a little bit. So yeah, expect the JP one to be dropping soon. If you go to livestreamerbackstage.com, you'll get to the podcast, and it's available in all your favorite podcast players. As I say, it's recorded live on Amazon and LinkedIn, but I will also be posting the recording, which will be slightly edited. You know what I'm like with editing, minimal editing where possible. But that is also now going to be posted onto my YouTube channel as well. So expect when the actual podcast drops in the podcast player, the edited version will also be coming out onto the YouTube channel. So if you want to just watch the replay, you can catch it there. But definitely, if you want to join in the conversation, then you can find it over on, as I say, Amazon Live or LinkedIn Live. Now, this week or this next week on next Tuesday, I'm going to be talking to Dr. Efrain Lopez, or Dr. Elo, as many people know him. And one of the things I've been really impressed with him is his consistent content workflow that he has built up, whereby I'm just constantly seeing his stuff. And one of the things about being a live streamer is repurposing your content, but also, you know, building awareness about what it is you're doing. And I think that Elo's just been doing something really great with that of late. It's just something that's caught my attention. So I'm really interested to learn from him about his the way that he's got set up. And as somebody who is similar to me, in which, you know, he's got a small window of opportunity every day to focus on his content creation amongst, you know, a full-time job and juggling family life as well. Really keen to get some insights from him. So that's the Live Streamer Backstage podcast, available on Amazon Live, LinkedIn Live, replay on YouTube, and also obviously in your favorite podcast player as well. So with that said, let me just come back. I'll just check in with the chat because I've seen a few comments and they've been getting away from me slightly. Chris, keyboard maestro again. I know it's the thing about keyboard maestro is, and I'll just come clean with the reason why I've struggled with this, is a beginner's guide to keyboard maestro. There is so much that it can do. I've been struggling with figuring out like what is the best sort of sequence to go through with this in terms of sort of laying it all out from a beginner's perspective. I've done, I think, 3 or 4 videos on it now, although only one that is specifically kind of the beginner's guide video, the video one of it. It just can do so much that I've just got to try and fit. It's almost, I mean, it is really a full sort of course in itself, really. So that's, I think that's where the friction has been. And whenever I've got some sort of friction, it's kind of like, oh, I'll have to come back to it. And that's probably why I've kind of delayed it slightly. It's just trying to grapple with what's the best way to lay this out for beginners so that it's they're told how to use it in a logical progression, if you see what I mean. But yeah, it is high on the list. I just need it to float that little bit further to get to the top. Yeah, that one about 2-factor authentication. So that one there, Chris, about the open a website, log in, and then go to Authy and look for the 2-factor authentication key. If you're using Authy on the desktop, that we could do that with Keyboard Maestro. I'll perhaps talk with you offline about that, or in the Discord. I'll do a little thing about that in the Discord, because yeah, you can do that. I've got whole sequences of stuff that is similar to that, where you're on a website and it's got to go from one to another, do a series of steps, and then, you know, put in details and so on. Let's have a little look. Going through here. Did I say hello to Dina? I don't know. Just noticed your comment there. If I didn't, thank you, Dina. So cool. Okie dokie. I'm going to try and catch up. So your local tyre centre. I'm guessing you're not my local tyre centre, but who knows? Does Super Macro? I'm not sure what Super Macro is. Trying to utilize my Stream Deck even more. Great video. What is Super Macro? I'm not sure what Super Macro is. I don't know what that is. You'll have to expand on that a little bit more. But you've got me intrigued. I like macros, so I'm sure to like Super Macros. Right, let's go back over to here then. So we've had a look at the different plugins and the way that you basically add the plugins. I've talked about a few of my favorites that you can use. And it's a case of really just going through that store and taking a look at the full list, really, because you'll see some here that just sort of leap out to you. Mouse movements and clicks. That's what Super Macro is it. So yeah, with that one, that's something that I would use Keyboard Maestro for. So with Keyboard Maestro on the Mac, I don't know if you're Mac or PC, by the way, but certainly on the Mac, I use Keyboard Maestro, and that can do all that. It can move the mouse, click on the mouse on different parts of the screen, but you can also use found image. So in fact, I'll come on to this a little bit later, because with Keyboard Maestro, you can basically have it look for a specific image on the screen. And that's how I do my website automation using Keyboard Maestro and Stream Deck. It's going to go and find the login button. For an example of this is whenever I finish a video, I've got one button that I press. One button that I presses, and what that does is it opens up YouTube Studio, and then it actually physically moves the mouse over and clicks on the button to upload video. Then it moves the mouse, and it's doing all of this by actually looking for the image that it needs to click on, and it goes through this full sequence to actually go through and upload the video and open up some other windows that I need to type in the description and all this kind of stuff. And it does about, I would say, 20 different things, but it's just I finish the video and it's like, if the video is good to go, I'll just press a button and it'll just do it all. So yeah, Keyboard Maestro is really good for that. And in fact, whilst we're talking about it, Keyboard Maestro, there is a plugin for Keyboard Maestro, but there's also a third party made by Keyboard Maestro, but that's more for controlling Stream Deck with Keyboard Maestro, because that's something else you can do as part of the Keyboard Maestro macros. You can have it trigger something that you've got built into Stream Deck. But this one here, this KM link, is the one that you want for actually just triggering your Keyboard Maestro macros. And it's just a single little action here, but basically just down below, it says select macro, and you've just got a full list of all of your different macros that you can just scroll through. And when you press that, it would help if I didn't cover what I was doing with a comment, wouldn't it? So just there, select macro. And so basically anything that you can control with, anything that you can program as a macro with Keyboard Maestro, you can basically just do with the press of a button. But we're getting on to some slightly more advanced stuff. So let's have a little look. Free puncture repair next time I'm in Australia. I appreciate that. I'll hold you to that. Let's keep going down now, because those are just an example of some of the widgets. I'm getting ahead of myself into some of the more advanced sort of productivity stuff here, but that's how easy it is to just sort of drag and drop things on in terms of adding stuff to the Stream Deck. And hopefully you've been able to see that as I'm doing stuff, over there, it's also appearing on the Stream Deck down here as well. Now, at some point, what's going to happen is you're going to fill up the Stream Deck. So when you do, you've got a few different options. One of which is, you'll notice down here, it says page, or there, pages, and we've just got one. Well, I can click on the plus and I can create a new page. Adding the new page, basically, you can see it's now gone blank, but we've got this little arrow to go back to the previous page. And now you can see I'm doing this just with the Stream Deck as well. So that is next page, and then previous page. So I've got 2 pages there. You can add up to 10 pages. So I could add a whole series of pages. And if I just add on some random little actions to here, so you can see that I am sort of scrolling through them, it would help if I made some different actions so it doesn't all look the same. Just drag those on like that. So you can see that as I'm basically scrolling through these pages, it's showing me those different sets of keys. So that is one way that you can organize and have, expand beyond the 32 or 15 or whatever number of keys it is you've got. But one other thing that we've got on here is folders. Now, I'm going to tell you about folders first, because it is usually the way that people first think that they want to organize their Stream Deck, because it's logical. We're used to managing file systems and things like that with folders. So in the Stream Deck, we've got here, this very top action is create folder. And if I drop that on here, we've now got the little folder sign. We could call that whatever we want. And when you press that button, you go into this, and this is kind of like a folder of actions, and you can add on a whole load of more actions in here. You can't have pages in folders, so you are just limited to 32 or 15 keys, whatever it is, minus 1, because you have to have this one to get back out of the folder. And the first thing I did when I got Stream Deck was I thought, great, I'm going to just organize my entire Stream Deck with folders, and I'll create one page that's got a series of folders on for me to just dive in and get into all of these other different use cases that I've got. I would recommend that that is not the best way to do it now. Having gone through and done that and then scrapped it and started over again, there is something else on Stream Deck called profiles. And with profiles, basically, that is, think about a profile as being like a specific use case that you've got for it. So right now, I'm just doing a demo. But if I come into here, this is my Ecamm Live profile for recording videos and live streaming on using Ecamm Live. So this is my sort of Take One Tech recording profile. So this has got all the different actions that I use for recording. And I mentioned one of the limitations of folders is you can't have multiple pages. Well, with a profile, it's basically just a fresh set of, a fresh Stream Deck to work with. So here I've got my first page. I've got another page. So these are all stuff that I use when sort of preparing for a live stream. I've got another page over here, which is different templates that I use for buttons. And you can see I've actually got 5, I'm pointing down here, over on that side, wherever it is. I've actually got 5 pages for my Ecamm Live profile just for Take One Tech. So that is one specific use case. The way that you create a profile is in here, this little drop down. You can see here I've got all of my different profiles that I use, and there is one right at the bottom there that is just new profile. So you can click that and it'll create a completely blank one for you to start afresh with. And let's just do that actually. New profile. It's going to start completely blank, one page with that single button in the middle there. But that's a little bit tricky because now we're just in that profile. How do we actually switch back and forth between these profiles? Well, there is this button here called Switch Profile. So just as in the folder, when you went into the folder and then you had that little back button to get back up into the profile that you're just in, well, here we can kind of simulate exactly that functionality in any case, because we can use this switch profile and then we could just say, right, what profile do we want to go to? Well, down here is where we've got obviously the settings for all the actions. So we could give this a title, the device. I'll talk about this in a moment because you can actually use one Stream Deck to switch profiles on another Stream Deck, which has a number of uses. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But for the time being, the device is just on the current device. So let me switch back to, what shall I switch to? Where was that demonstration one? That was actually this profile one. So now if I press that button, it's actually going to take me back to that profile that we were just in. So whereas before we'd created a folder and we could go in and out of that folder, well, let's say I just get rid of that folder, maybe just delete it. And instead I use switch profile instead. And then let's go to that profile 3. So now I've basically just completely replicated what we had with folders, but I'm doing it with profiles instead. So I'm going into that profile that we've just created, but now we have multiple pages, and then I'm coming back out of it. Why else is this useful? Well, the thing is, because we can use this switch profile to switch to any profile from anywhere, it means that this folder or this collection of icons, we can also access from anywhere as well. So there are cases where I want to be able to get into a particular grouping of actions and then get back out again, but I don't want to have to go through, a whole system, a whole route, if you like, of forgetting what the term is now. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to go in and out of a specific profile to get into a folder. So I could access profile 3 from anywhere. So just as here, I can get into it from here. And let's just add something onto the screen so we can see it's the same one. Just as I can get into it from here, what I could also do is maybe I might want to just access that from here as well. So if I just go to switch profile, then I can just easily come in here and access it from here as well. Because what I found was there would be certain things where I might have like a collection of actions that I had grouped together in a folder, and then I would maybe copy and paste the folder into another area or into another folder, so that I could access it from there as well. Then I'd go and make changes to the first grouping in the first folder, but those changes wouldn't be reflected in the second one. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but basically with profiles, you get all of the benefits of folders, but with some added benefits and without the limitations. So I'd recommend when you are setting your Stream Deck from the start, think about it in terms of profiles and use cases. I do still occasionally use folders, but very sparingly. It's like if I've literally just got a group of actions that I just want to test out something, or I just want to keep them and they're just only ever going to be used for that particular thing. So for example, like in Ecamm, there might be some stuff that I don't really use that often. It doesn't warrant having its own screen, and I might just want to dip into it at times to get to those actions. So, but generally I'd use profiles all of the time over folders. So what I would recommend then is having a home screen effectively, which is where you're going to link to all of your profiles. So if I go to my home screen from here, this is my sort of home screen. This is where I get into a series of other profiles along here. This is where I get into a series of profiles that are specific for apps. I've got a few things that I just have on the home screen in any case. I've got a few zoom controls just because I'm in that so much that it's just handy to always have those on the home screen. A few little emojis that I use. I'm either happy, laughing, grateful, or in agreement. Those are my 4 core states. And any other emojis I can access from here as well. And so yeah, this is kind of my home screen. But then each of these is basically linking to another profile. So I've got my profile here for OmniFocus. So when I go into that, this is when I'm doing stuff in OmniFocus and managing my task management system. Then I can control all of that from here. I mentioned the Zoom one, so I've got that on its dedicated profile as well. And then you'll notice that all of them have got this little home button at the top, this orange home button. So all that is just a link to a profile, and the profile I've just called home, and that is this. This is this home profile. Oops, daisy, I went to the wrong one there. This is this home profile. You can manage profiles. So I've shown you how to add in a profile by clicking this little drop down, but just cunningly off the screen, let me move that up a little bit. You can see that there is also, no, it's still just off the screen. You can see that there is also this edit profile. Now, if you click on edit profile, it's going to take you into the same place as the settings. So the settings is up here. And if I click on that, it's going to take you into this profiles section. And here you've got a list of all your profiles. You can reorder them in terms of, the order that they appear in that list. You can also add new profiles from here as well. You can also right click and duplicate. Sorry, I'm just quickly looking at Keely. Keely says, I haven't been able to find a Stream Deck action for opening a folder. Yeah, it's just the open command, Keely. If I go back into this one, I'll just quickly demo this. Oh, open a Stream Deck folder. No, there isn't. Sorry. No, there is. There is only a. There is only just the actual button. That's the limitation of folders. That's why I just use profiles, because profiles you can actually have opening a profile as part of a multi-action. Whereas folders are just intended to be just a kind of standalone thing. So no, unfortunately, there is no one, and that's I just recommend using a profile. So I have that when I go into, for example, just coming back to I'm jumping about a little bit here, but this should make sense. So here, like for example, when I go into my live streamer backstage setup, so this is when I'm recording my podcast, you can see that this is actually a multi-action. And so clicking on this, what it does is it switches my Ecamm Live profile to my live streamer backstage profile, where I record everything for the podcast. But it's also got 2 profile switches for Stream Deck, one of which is switching my Stream Deck XL, this device here on my desk, to my live streamer backstage profile. But it also switches my Stream Deck pedal, which is down on the floor, to the 3 actions that I want for that as well. So yeah, there's no similar thing though for folders in Stream Deck. Yeah, that's just another reason why I find that profiles work better for that. But coming back into the settings, there's a couple of things to note with this, which may or may not catch you out. So these are all the different profiles that I've got. Now you can have this open, you can have a profile open when you open a specific application. So if I'd got one in here for Excel, which I have, I could actually just go into here and select the application and find Excel and add Excel in, so that every time I open Excel, it switches over the profile on the Stream Deck to the buttons for Excel, which might sound really useful. But for me, because I do a lot of screen demos and also because I spend a lot of time on Zoom where maybe I'm trying to show somebody something in an application, I don't want the Stream Deck deciding what it's going to have on the screen for me. So I don't want it to automatically switch over to my Excel just because I happen to have made Excel the frontmost application. So that might be a bit unique to me. You might find that really useful from a productivity point of view to have Stream Deck just automatically be in the set of actions for the particular application you're using. So if so, just know that you can do that. One little point that might catch you out is make sure that if you have got profiles that you want to be using just and switching between them freely, make sure that none of them have got this "make this my default profile" checked. Because what will happen is when you open another application that doesn't have a profile assigned to it, it will just go back to whatever that was. And this was something that caught me out for ages, that I had one particular profile that had this checked. And then I'd be going and doing something, usually in a live stream or a demo or in Zoom or something, and I'd open up a specific application that didn't have anything assigned to it, and it would switch to this other profile. So just make sure that, this default profile, if you've got more than one that doesn't have an application assigned to it, you likely want this unchecked on all of them. So I hope that makes sense. You can also, from in here, if you click the little drop down, something that I definitely recommend doing is go to this backup all, and you can create a backup. So once you've spent some time getting things set out as you want them, then definitely go through and create a backup, and ideally have that as a recurring little task on your task manager to go in and sort of back it up intermittently to make sure that you have got a backup, and then restore from backup, obviously, if you have any issue. I've never had anything happen with my Stream Deck in 18 months that has required me to back up or restore from a backup, but it's nice to know that it is there. Some people have had issues occasionally. So as with all things, it's always good to have a backup. You can also export a profile. So when I make my icon packs for Stream Deck, I've created the profile, and then I export the profile, and then that's what people download when they download the icon packs, and then they can import those just by coming to here, click on import, and then you just import the file, and it'll bring in all of the actions, and it will also bring in any icons as well that people have assigned to it in the export process. So that's a great way to share setups if you've maybe set some up for somebody else, or indeed if you're going to create digital downloads of your setups, as I've done with my icon packs, then that is how you would do that. The one caveat with that is to make sure that if somebody's importing your profile, that they also have to have the required plugins. It's not going to go and grab the plugins. So for example, the one that I've created for Zoom, then if somebody hasn't been in and downloaded the Zoom plugin for Stream Deck, then just importing my profile won't do that part for them. They'd have to go through and do that themselves. But apart from that, that is how you import and export. Another great way to share between computers. So if you've got multiple computers with Stream Decks, you can do that way as well to export the profile. Whilst we are in the preferences, we've kind of looked at accounts and profiles. We should probably also look at the other tab in here, which is this general tab. This is where you're going to see the software version. Check for updates. You can always do that. There will be intermittent updates come, and then it'll tell you whether you've got the latest version or not. At the time of recording, we're on 5.3.1. So you can come in here and check for updates. One thing I'll mention though is if we come further down here, you'll notice that it says firmware version as well. Now here, there is always a button here. It always says check for updates. You can always check for updates. With firmware, there is no button to say check for updates, but what happens is when there is an update available, you'll see a button that appears here to say update available, download it or whatever. The thing that catches people out though is it'll often come as part of a software update. And so every time you go and update the software, so if you check for updates and it says there's one available and you go through and update the software, what it doesn't do is automatically update your firmware as well. But what you'll generally find, or often find, is you'll update the software, and then if you go back into this page here, you may find that there's a firmware update suddenly just appeared like as soon as you've reopened the app. So what I'd recommend is anytime you get an update, just come back into this one more time after the update has happened and just see if there's a firmware update as well, because usually there's some sort of firmware that goes along with the software update. But as I say, they don't do that all in one go as part of the software update process. And that would go for, by the way, all the different devices you've got. So you might have the software is going to be the software that you're seeing on the computer, this one that we've been looking at. But this firmware is for the actual device, which is probably why they don't go through and update it all at the same time as the software, because here you can come through the different devices and then you'll see if there is any firmware available for them. So also, whilst we are in this section, this is, as I say, where you can change the device between, we've got Stream Deck Mobile, Stream Deck Pedal, Stream Deck XL. Those are the ones that I've got connected. You can give them different names as well to make it more easy. You know, if you've got two XLs, you want to be able to differentiate between them. You can also change the device orientation. Now, what this is going to do is basically just rotate the icons on the screen. So if I click device orientation and change that to 90, what you'll see is that all of the icons on my screen have now flipped around 90 degrees. If I just flick them back, you'll be able to see that a little bit easier. So if I flick them back now, you'll see all the icons down there just basically rotate. So they all stay in exactly the same positions on the screen. They're not going to move around anywhere, but you're just literally rotating them around. So if you want to have the Stream Deck maybe on its side, you know, next to your computer or something like that, next to your keyboard rather, then that's what that's for. And you can rotate them basically 90, 180 or 270. You can also set the device to go to sleep. So I've got mine set to never, but I have got a key to put it to sleep. I'll show you that in a moment. But you can have it, if you just want it to sleep after a particular time of inactivity, you can do that in here as well. There is also a screensaver function, and that's basically, it says screensaver, but it's essentially just an image that you're going to have on the screen. You can create animated GIFs and use those to create, you know, a fancy moving screensaver effect. I just haven't bothered. And you can also change the brightness of the device here as well. You can see as I'm doing that, it's moving the brightness up and down here. And then, yeah, there we've got the firmware, as I mentioned. So that is in the preferences. That's about all we need to look at in the preferences. I've talked about switching profiles. One thing I haven't talked about is actually the icons and how to change icons. So let's have a little look at that. If I take any one of these actions, you can see down here, we've got a sort of representation of the icon. And in fact, let me come to this one, because this was this one that was the switch. So it's going to toggle something on and off. And you can see that we've got two separate icons. The way that you add an icon to something is if you've got it on your computer already. So maybe you've created your own icons. I'll talk about how to do that a little bit later as well. If you've created your icons or you've bought an icon pack, then it's as simple as, if I just go and open up, I should have done this in advance. If I just open up some of my my icon packs, get this one up here. So here you can see this is a selection of icons that I created for Ecamm Live. This is what I use for my live stream, and I like to have pictograms basically. So I don't tend to use the text function that you've got on the screen itself. I'd rather just have something that where the image itself tells me what the button is. I find that's a lot just easier and more intuitive for me. But all you do is, let's say I wanted to use this icon here. This isn't necessarily the right one for what we're talking about, but it shows you the principle. You just literally drag it and drop it on there. And then when you've got a button that has two states like this, you would then just go and select the other state, and then you could drag and drop an icon on there. And you'll see that that's changed on this button. And then we've got the on and off state basically shown as those two things. So it's very easy if you've got these images on your computer already, or you've bought them from somewhere, to just drag and drop them like that. There is another way that you can do this though. So first of all, if you click this in fact, let me come to a different one. Here you can see there's a little arrow just up at the top there. And if I click on that, you've got three options. Either set from file. That's basically just going to open up the file, the Finder, so that you can then go and just grab the file rather than dragging and dropping. You've also got create new icon on this side as well. Now, that one I wouldn't really recommend. That opens up a website, and the website it opens up is Elgato's Super Deluxe icon creator page, which is a bit of a I'm not a fan of it. It's not a great interface. It does have a series of icons here, so you might want to just check it out, because you might find that there is just the icon that you need. They do tend to be aimed more at live streamers in terms, which it makes sense really. But you've got lots of ones here for like playing media. There's some Twitch icons and things like that. But if you're starting to do a whole create a whole set of icons for some specific use case, one thing I like is for them all to look consistent so they don't look messy on the device, which is why I like to create my own. And yeah, you can sort of drag and drop these. So here you can set a background color. You can change the color from somewhere over here. Just pick a color. So we can give it a background color, and then I can add in any one of these icons. Whoops, I'm adding on too many. There's a way to take these off from somewhere as well. It's just a little bit kludgy, for want of a better word, to be able to create them in here. But as I say, it's definitely worth having a look at. But I just find it's not the best interface, and I'll show you a better way to create free icons instead. But I digress. That is the option that you've got here to either load, set from file, or create new icon. So the create new icon I'm not so much for. But you've also got this Stream Deck icon library, and this was something that was added in a fairly recent update in 5.2, I think. So if we come back to the Stream Deck store, and once again you access the Stream Deck store from this little button just up at the top corner. And as well as the plugins that we've looked at, you've also got icons. And with icons, there are a series of, some by Elgato, some are third-party, where they've created their own icon packs, and you can download them. And some of these are really good. And in fact, one that I will definitely recommend is Sideshow FX. So let me go over to their website, because I've got a couple of icon packs on my website, but Sideshow FX have got a huge number of really great icon packs for a lot of the creative apps. So Adobe Creative Suite, Final Cut Pro, things like that as well. Let me come over and just show you their website. And basically, they're available for sale on the Sideshow FX website. And you can find them they've got all of these things down here. So like Blender, as I say, all the Creative Suite, DaVinci Resolve. And by the way, the icons if you've got an icon pack for Stream Deck, it'll work on Loop Deck as well. Generally, I mean, the actual images will. Sometimes they have built-in profiles, sometimes not. But Sideshow FX, in fact, let me just drop this in the chat, because it's definitely worth checking out for some really sort of great professional app icons. There you go, Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve. And when I say icon packs, they're icon packs. Let's go and click on this one, for example. Premiere Pro. What you'll see is $19.99. New for, where is it? $19.99. How many has it got? There you go, 680 icons. So it's got, basically, it can control all of the functions that you're probably going to want to do in Premiere Pro. And it's $20 for 680 icons. Well, the reason I mention this is because before you go and buy their full icon pack, what you might want to do is come over to the store, the Stream Deck store, because you'll see that we've got Sideshow FX. And here they have actually got the Premiere Pro icon pack. The only thing is, instead of 680 icons, it's only got 70. So they're using this as basically a way for you to get a sample of the icon pack. But what you might find is, if you're not actually using all of the functions, you may find that this icon pack that you can get from here has actually got all the things that you're likely to need for it. And that's the case with me. I don't really do editing. And the few things that I do occasionally need to do, I use Premiere Pro just because I'm an Adobe Suite user. So there's a couple of things that I've done. My podcast, for example, I'm chopping little bits and adding little bits in to that. And for the video podcast, I've just been doing that in Premiere Pro. And they've got just a few little icons that I need in here. So definitely check out the icon packs in the store. And all you do with this is, if you are going down here, you see one that you like. Let's have a little look at, DaVinci Resolve. Don't really actually use that, but nevertheless, Sideshow FX, just click on install. It's going to pop up with this little message again. Click on install there, and then it's going to go through and add that. So yeah, definitely come through and have a look. They're adding more and more in here all the time for different applications. So there's one for Illustrator there. Final Cut Pro, lots, as I say, lots by Sideshow FX, Cinema 4D. And once you've done it, it's going to say installing. And then if I come back out of here, so now when I want to add in one of those icons, if I click on the little arrow here, open Stream Deck icon library, what that's going to do is pop up this one. And this is where you're going to have all the icons that you've downloaded from the store, basically. So all of the built-in ones, but also the ones that you've downloaded from the store. I've just realized, have I got trip mode on? Oh no, I mustn't have. But anyway, there you go. So there is the Premiere Pro ones, and you can basically just, I've got some in here for Illustrator as well. Again, Sideshow FX. They're really nice little icons. I've got their Photoshop one and their Final Cut one. And then there's some other ones. There's that DaVinci Resolve one. So that's the one that I've just installed, and you can see it's just appeared in here. So let's just pick one of these at random. So click on that. It's very slow today. That's strange. That's strange. So what's supposed to happen is you just click on these and it just sort of adds them in. Oh, it's done it already. It was doing it in the background, that's why. So if I just click on one of these other ones, you can see it's actually changing it there. I was expecting this to close down. So there you go. So that's how you can just choose one of these icons from those packs that you've downloaded. So that is a way that you can get icons. The way that I make all of my icons is actually using Keynote. I'll just very briefly show you this because it is super simple, really. So it won't take me a second to just demonstrate. I'm going to open Keynote, and I'll just create a completely new document. You can do this with PowerPoint as well. As I say, I've got the Adobe Creative Suite. Creative Suite, not Creative Street. I could just do these all in Illustrator, but actually I just find it so simple and easy to create them in Keynote that I figure why not. And there's another thing about Keynote which is kind of useful. If I just come over here. So here I've got Keynote open. It's probably a little bit small on the screen. It's just a completely blank slide. Just delete that. Now the size of the slides, as I say, this would be the same in PowerPoint as well, but come over to the document. You'll find that you've got two options here. So the slide size is either going to be widescreen 16:9 or standard 4:3, but actually you've got this here, custom slide size. So all you're going to do in here is just make it a square, basically. And now the resolution of the keys on Stream Deck, I think, is 32 pixels by 32 pixels. However, just make it any size and it will scale it down. So make it, I don't know, 1000 by 1000. Like that. So now you've got a square slide. What you could also do is we looked at how you could make like different colored backgrounds on that slide on the icon generator from Elgato. Well, what we could do is we could actually come over here and just change the background in the slide master. So if I just click out of here, this is a bit small actually. Just come to here. I've got this all squished up into a small little space. Just bear with me a second. What I want to do is make that a bit smaller. Format. There we go. Right. So if I come into this one, edit slide layout. What you might want to do is where it has, you know, what presentation software is like, it creates all these different templates of slides that you can go and add in all of your stuff. So this is editing the slide master now. What you might want to do is just delete all of these. And I'll just put that as blank. Delete all of these like that. And we'll just leave a blank one. But then perhaps the background color we want of this one is maybe blue. You might want to then create another one. So duplicate that, but I'll make the background color of this one as, I don't know, red, something like that. So now we've got a series of different sort of background colors. So there, just use 3, for example. You can make those obviously whatever color you want. Click on done. So that is our slide master done. And now if we go and want to create our icon, then what we can do is There are a huge number of sort of pictograms already built into Keynote, and the same with PowerPoint as well. So you may find that if you just come into here and click on shape, as well as just general shapes, you've also got all of these other different ones in here. So if I come down this list, all these different pictograms, you may find something. So for example, the one that I use for my home icon, if I type in home, then it's just got a picture of a house. The color of that is happens to be the exact color of the background, which is not useful. Let me just change that a second. So we'll make it red or yellow. These are terrible colors that I'm choosing here, aren't they? But you get the idea. So there we've got a picture of a house. Maybe we want to create another one, which is I don't know, for a video call or something like that. So what you can do here, though, is if you click on Add Slide, now it's got these templates, which are these sort of backgrounds that we just created. So you might want to have that as a something on a red background. Click on Shape, and then let's type in phone. Old school phone. So we've now just created a little phone icon. So you can see that it's really easy once you've got this to just go through and create all of these different icons, because you're just literally going through and adding in a new slide, and add in the pictograms. Obviously, you can just drag and drop images. So maybe you've got some little transparent background image that you want to use for these, maybe the logo for something, for an application that you want to use, or a website you want to use. So you could just drag and drop that in there as well. And if I just actually open up my sort of template with all my icons in, this one over here. So these are all the icons that I've created, and I'm just creating them in here, just in this way. And the good thing about this is once you've created a series of slides or a series of icons, if you just export those as images, so just do File, Export to, and then Images. And again, it would be the same sort of process with PowerPoint. You just select the slides that you want to export. And in this case, I've got 540, but you could, if you just made some new ones, you could just export just those as PNG and then click Next. And it just exports them all as individual files. So once you've created them, you export in one go, and it just creates a whole set of files for you, one for each icon that you've created. One little tip that I'll give here as well is I find that it's good to have a sort of consistent look and feel to them. So these, for example, are ones that I use for my overlays in Ecamm. So this is my little way of signifying that. It's kind of one layer over the top of another. So this would be all of my Ecamm overlays. And you can see that they've got a same sort of consistent look and feel to them. These ones are for things related to recording, live streaming, adding a timestamp, things like that. And you notice that all the sort of sizes of them are consistent. And that's one thing from a design point of view, just to make sure that you've got a sort of consistent look and feel to them. Well, one way that you can sort of cheat to do that, if I come up to one of these ones, is if I come and get this for a second, I'll just create a new one. And then I'll paste this in. So what I've got here is if you search for iOS icon template, what Apple did when they changed from, I forget which version of iOS it was, but they went from a point of where they had lots of skeuomorphism in their icon design for the iPhone, where the notepad, for example, looked like a leather-bound notepad, and everything kind of looked like the physical device that it was meant to represent. And at some point they had a complete redesign of the whole iOS system where they wanted to unify the look of all of the icons. And so they created this icon template. And if you look at all the all the iOS icons that Apple create, they kind of fall within this template. And so, making sure you don't have anything outside of the bounding box from here, this very outside one. If you've got any circular elements, then it generally fills this large circle. Smaller circular elements fill this middle one. And they use it as basically just a way to lay out icons and use it as a design template, really. And so I use this when I'm creating my icons as well, so that I get a consistent look and feel to them, so that they do all have that sort of consistent look to them. So, for example, here you can see the just to call back to what Keely was saying about the YouTube icon pack. This is all the YouTube icons, and you can see that basically this fits within that central box. This outside circle fits within that outside circle that we saw in the template. And it's just got, as I say, this consistent look. These do not fall outside of that very outside boundary, and the actual size of them is similar to that central box that was in the template. So yeah, searching for the iOS icon design template is a great way to do it. You can find a sort of transparent version of it usually. So this is just a, in fact, I don't think that one is transparent, but you can get a, oh no, it is transparent, I think. But you can get a transparent version of it that just sits over in the background. So I just have that in my slides when I go to create a new one, and then use that as the guideline or the guide to create them. And as I say, that is all of the icon packs that are on my website. I've just created them in Keynote, so it is really easy to make these and to get a consistent look across all of your icons. These are just the ones, as I say, that I use for Ecamm, for my for when I'm recording and live streaming and things like that. So definitely worth having a look at that. Like I say, you can do that with PowerPoint as well, and I just find it's a lot quicker. I think you can do it with Canva as well. So if you are a Canva user, same kind of thing applies. It's just a case of creating a square template that you're going to use, or a square slide that you are going to use. So let me just have a little look about where we're up to. I think I've covered off. So that is how to add the icons. I think I've covered off most of the things on here. I will just then come on to the sort of productivity uses. We've sort of dipped in and out of this. But really, it comes down to, looking at any automation app that you use on your Mac. So like Keyboard Maestro. I won't go down into the Keyboard Maestro rabbit hole, but basically Keyboard Maestro, having said that, I won't go down into the rabbit hole. Keyboard Maestro is a automation app for the Mac. And there are similar ones here for PC as well. But this is the one that I know how to use on the Mac. So Keyboard Maestro basically is for creating macros. And so the way that works is you've got different groupings of macros, so you can organize all of your macros. But then if we go in and create a new one, basically the way it works is you've got a series of triggers. So you can have actions that are triggered by, you can have macros that are triggered by keyboard shortcuts. But you can also have them triggered by a whole load of other things, like, for example, when I'm at the coffee shop Wi-Fi, turn off my, sensitive network connections or things like that you don't want transmitting data over an open Wi-Fi. You can have it for triggered by time. So at a certain time of the day, I want it to run a backup or transfer files from one drive to another to do like drive maintenance and things like that. So there's all kinds of different different triggers that you can have for your macros. It could be just when you open a specific app, do something. So when I open Ecamm, have it turn off certain things that are going to chew up my bandwidth, for example. That might be another use case. Or when you connect a certain device, do things. So there's lots of different triggers. But in actual fact, if you're going to create a macro for Keyboard Maestro that you're only going to be triggering from Stream Deck, we can actually just leave this completely blank. So this is the kind of like the triggering part. But then down here is where you can add the action that you want to perform with this macro. And I say action, but it's actually actions. You can have a whole complex series of actions. And really, this is the area where some people look at Keyboard Maestro and get a little bit daunted by all that it can do. Because if I click on new action, these are all the different actions that you can perform with it. And it's a massive long list. And in fact, it's even more than it looks there, because there's little sub things that you can do within them. So, for example, you can have it, if I do mouse, for example, that was one we were talking about earlier. So move or click on the mouse. So I could have it when I press a button, it's going to move the mouse to a specific location. And then it's going to click the mouse. But I could also have it just actually double click the mouse or triple click. I could have it just only move the mouse to that point. Sometimes you want to move the mouse over something to highlight something on the screen. But you could also then, if I maybe say click, but then maybe I want to actually drag it as well. So maybe you want to literally click on something and drag it to somewhere else on the screen. So you can drag it. And then in terms of where you want to click, you can either click on a specific point on the screen, or you can click relative to a specific window. or you can click on a specific image. So down at the bottom here, you've got Found Images Center. So now what I could do is, let's say I wanted to click on, let's say that this was the login sign for your particular, whatever it was, Gmail or whatever we were talking about earlier on. Let's say that I want to actually, when I activate this, I want it to go and click over on like this image. Obviously, I wouldn't do this because it's in Keyboard Maestro, but you get the idea. What I could do is I could take a screenshot of that image. 1 second. So take a little screenshot of that image just there. So I've now grabbed a screenshot of it. And then what I could do is I could drag this image now and drop it in there. So you can see that it's got a picture of that little image in it. So now when I activate this, it's going to actually find that image on the screen and it's going to move the mouse over to it. So if I click on run, it's probably going to confuse itself now because we've got two of the same image on the screen. But basically, when you run the macro, it's going to find the image and click on it. And that's actually how I automate the upload of my videos, because it opens up a website first of all, and we can do that. So if you want to go to a URL, so open a URL. So I could drag that in first. So that might be, I'm going to go to, I don't know, whatever it is, Gmail, or in my case, I go to YouTube Studio. Then I'm going to go to a found image, which is the upload a video. Then you have to go through and drag the video onto the area. So you can create a really complex set of a complex chain of actions. And just as I mentioned with Stream Deck, how it's useful to hello, Melvin. Just noticed you popped in. Great to see you here. Yeah, just as I mentioned about Stream Deck, the way to go about it is, rather than necessarily try and plan absolutely everything out for the beginning. Obviously, if you're doing a show on Ecamm or something and you want to have specific scenes, then yeah, you need to plan that out. But when it comes to productivity and all of the things that you can use that for, just sort of build this up over time as you realize the stuff you do over and over again. And that's the same with Keyboard Maestro, is look for the things that you're doing, these repetitive tasks that you're doing over and over again, that rather than you go through all these steps, you could just press a button and it would just do it all for you. And then break down that into logical steps of what it is you're doing, and then that's how you would go through and program it in here. But as I say, it can be a bit daunting to look at everything that it can do. So rather than look at the whole scope of everything it can do, it's rather a case of just thinking, like, knowing that it can probably do whatever it is that you want to do, and then just look for those things that you need to automate, and then figure out how to do it, as opposed to going in and trying to take it all in, because there's really quite a lot in there to take in. But in any case, that is basically what Keyboard Maestro is. It is allowing you to create a chain of actions, building them into macros, and then trigger them from either these triggers like keyboard shortcuts, or from other events that happen. But as I say, the real beauty of this is we can actually just trigger it with the Stream Deck. And the way that you do that is we just use this plugin that is called KM Link. As I say, there is a one, if you search in the store, then if I come over to the store and I'll go to Discover, to plugins, then there is here, if I search for Keyboard Maestro, there is a Keyboard Maestro plugin. So there you go. There is that one, Keyboard Maestro, and it's by Stairway Software, who make Keyboard Maestro. What that is for is triggering a macro in Keyboard Maestro, but also going the other way and triggering stuff in Stream Deck. I find, though, that this KM Link is actually a much more streamlined way to do it. So I've got both, but I tend to use KM Link. And the way KM Link works is, if I come over to the plugins, and then I'll come to custom, and then here you've just got this KM Link. Drag this onto here, and all you're going to do is just select the macro from the drop-down list at the bottom, like this, and then you can just select that was the one that I just created. So if I was to press that now, it would go and basically do whatever we told it to do. Move the mouse over to that particular point on the screen. So that's where the Stream Deck really just becomes, as I mentioned in the description and in the trailer, it's kind of like the ultimate productivity tool, because it gives you access to all of these things that you can do with Keyboard Maestro. And whilst Keyboard Maestro, obviously we could do all of this before with keystrokes, but one of the sticking points with Keyboard Maestro is actually building up that muscle memory and remembering what the keyboard shortcut is. And whilst, yes, you know, you can go through a process to try and commit these things to memory, if you're having difficulty, you know, remembering all these keyboard shortcuts you've made, there is no real way to go and remember them except maybe go and you know, write them down or open Keyboard Maestro. The beauty of Stream Deck is you've got a button with an icon on it that's hopefully, you know, you've created it so it's descriptive of what it does, or at least it actually says it. So rather than having to try and remember the keyboard shortcut or go and hunt for it written down somewhere, you can literally just look at the Stream Deck and see it. And it's so I found that it's been it's really opened Keyboard Maestro up more to be a lot more accessible, to be able to just trigger things with the touch of a button. I should mention, though, if you are not using Keyboard Maestro, but you're using shortcuts, so Mac OS shortcuts, which has been on Mac since Monterey. If I come over here, 1 second, where is it? This one. There is also a plugin for shortcuts, and that is called, there you go, cunningly, it's called Shortcuts. It's made by, I forget the name of the chap now. It's not made by Apple, it's a third party, but it's really good, and it's exactly the same process. You just drag and drop this single action on, and then you just go and pick out your actual shortcut. I've got videos on both of these, by the way, on my channel. So here you just go and pick out a particular shortcut from your list of shortcuts. So yeah, it's really easy to use, and again, you can just use that to trigger all of the things that you've got on your computer. All the shortcuts you've got, I should say, on your computer. Now, there is another side to this. Just bear with me 1 second, though. I'll just quickly check in. Melvin, what are you asking? Is there a window mover shortcut or app to allow you to press a Stream Deck button to open a series of windows that you need? There certainly is. Now, I use an application called Moom, M-O-O-M. And what that allows you to do is, first of all, you can do window management with that, where you can, you know, click and it will just move a window to a particular point on the screen. But what you can also do is you can create snapshots, so specific layouts that you've got of your screen. And then when you press a keyboard shortcut, it will actually arrange all of those windows into one place. I've got a video about that on the channel as well, but it's a little bit hard to kind of demo it actually, because it relies on me having all the right windows open. So if I show you, for example, what I've got open on my computer right now. Not that one. I tell you what, it's because I've got Ecamm Live on the wrong window. Let me move Ecamm over here for a second. There you go. So this is my my desktop as it is at the moment. It's a 4K 43-inch display, so I've got stuff all spread out all over the place. But Moom basically just sits in, if I come into here, do you know what? Moom won't let me show it whilst I'm in live demo mode. That is frustrating. Okay, so basically what you do with Moom, though, is it actually sits in the little green dots on your, you know, you got the red, the yellow, the maximize, minimize. Well, it's kind of like an extension of that. But for some reason, in live demo mode in Ecamm, it doesn't pop up, which is annoying. But what you can do is you can save a snapshot. So I could say, right, well, I want my windows all laid out like that on the screen. And I save that as a snapshot. And then I can use a keyboard shortcut to basically put everything back in that position. So in terms of your question then, is there a window mover shortcut or app to allow you to press a Stream Deck button and open a series of windows that you need? There are a couple of approaches here. If you don't use the Stream Deck, what you could do is in the if you don't use Keyboard Maestro, I beg your pardon, in Stream Deck, what you could do is create a multi-action. So let's have a look at how to do it. You could create a multi-action to open all of those applications. Let's go through and do this. So you would come in here, just right-click on any empty space, create multi-action, and then you double-click in it to go into there. And then what you'd do is you would use the system and the open command, and you could open, you know, whatever applications you needed to open. So let me just say you're going to open 4 different applications. So there you just go and choose the specific application. I won't go through and add them all in, but let's just take one for an example. So here's my list of apps. Let's say I'm going to open whatever it is. Take one at random, calculator. So you're going to go through and open all those apps, and then all you would simply do is you would use the hotkey. And then let's say you had assigned a hotkey, because you can do this in Moom. You would assign a hotkey for that particular layout, as whatever it was. I don't know, something like that. So then it's going to open all those apps, and then it's going to press the hotkey for Moom to make it arrange them all into those places. That is exactly what I do with the different things that I do on my Mac. I have hotkeys assigned to, or buttons assigned to all of these different things. One thing that I do though is I actually do the opening part in Keyboard Maestro. I do all of this kind of stuff in Keyboard Maestro. I find it's more efficient, and it's just the way that I do things. So I would just, rather than open the apps in Stream Deck itself, I would tend to have it all wrapped up in a single macro in Keyboard Maestro and do it that way. But this is how you would do it with multi-actions. One thing to bear in mind if you're doing something like this is, obviously when you open an app, there may be some time required to actually open the app. So it's always best to actually add in a delay. And you can come in here to, where is it? Stream Deck. And then you'll notice that we've got this one called delay. So what you want to do is just drag this and drop it between opening all the apps and then triggering that shortcut to move them all. Because as I say, you just need to give the apps time to open up properly and open up all their windows. Now, when you add in a delay, you'll see down here it says delay in, and the delay is in milliseconds. So that being 1000 being 1 second. So let's say you want to just give it, I don't know, depending on how quickly your apps open up, you might have to just play around with this to just get it exactly right. But better to be on the side of caution. If you don't mind waiting 3 seconds, maybe make that 3000 milliseconds. And then what's going to happen is when you press the button, it's going to open those 4 apps all in a row. And then it's going to trigger the Moom shortcut for doing that. Let me just quickly grab the link for Moom since we're talking about it. There are a couple of other apps that do this, but Moom I have found to be the best, because of the snapshot feature. There seems to be some overlapping between some of these features on different applications. So there's one called Magnet as well, which is to move apps into different locations, but it doesn't have the same snapshot feature. But I've just dropped the link to Moom in the chat. So whilst we're talking about delay though, what you'll notice is when you come onto any of these actions, as well as having the title and the app, or whatever it is, the details about it, you'll see that there's this little timer here, and it says customize delays. This one could be potentially a source of confusion if you're trying to add a delay between actions, because you might well think that, oh well, this says delay, so let me add that in. So let me just explain what this is. This was something that was added in the last version, I think, the last software update for Stream Deck. And it says custom action delays, and we've actually got 2. Previously, there was always a built-in delay between actions. So, for example, if you open one app, it was always going to wait to 200 milliseconds, I think it was, between going on to the next one. So it's not actually going to trigger all of these things exactly at once. There's always a sort of little built-in delay into it. This delay that we've added in, this one where we've physically added an action in that's called delay, there you can make the delay whatever you want. So from 1 millisecond all the way up to an hour if you want, or more. So as long as you enter the time in milliseconds, you can make this really whatever you want. You could make it a day, I guess, and it would just sit there counting down for you. But this built-in delay then here, as I say, this was just a stock 200 milliseconds, whether you liked it or not. There was always a 200 millisecond delay in between this chain of actions. And some people said, right, well, actually, we want to try and reduce that. And an example would be like if I've got a stinger overlay on a transition on a live stream where I want to switch scenes, but then I've got this thing that comes over the top of the scene as well at the same time. Then I would maybe want those things all to happen at the same time. And so what they added in is this custom action delays. And this first one here is basically simulating. You can see it's got a picture of a button going down and coming up. Maybe you can't see it. For some reason, my little Zoom thing is not quite. Oh, there it is. So this first one is basically simulating what is the amount of time between you pressing the button and releasing it again. So if you think about when you are pressing a key on a keyboard, sometimes if you were to just try and do it too quickly, it wouldn't even register that you'd pressed it. And this is the reason why they had this 200 millisecond delay in originally, because they wanted to make it foolproof basically so that it would always trigger. But if you've got something where it could actually be triggered really quickly, then you can actually move this slider down from 100 milliseconds all the way down to 1. So, effectively just 1,000th of a second. They've also then got a delay built in between one thing happening and another, because if you, I suppose it's a bit like if you try and press two keys on a typewriter, do people still do that at the same time? Then they'll kind of like get jammed. So this was trying to work in some, that's a bit of a bad analogy, isn't it, for a tech channel? But this was the second one here is the time between the first and the second action, or between two concurrent actions. So leaving a little bit of a space between them. And again, this was always 100 milliseconds before. So the combination of both of these is 200 milliseconds. So if you find that you've got something where you think, really, I need these actions to be much tighter together, then you could consider tweaking these. But just be careful, because if you make these too low, you might find that it causes issues and the thing doesn't trigger right. So I'm only explaining all of this because if you saw this delay, you might think that that's the way that you're supposed to control the delay between two actions. Whereas in actual fact, the real way to add delay is to use this delay feature. And this is really only if you are doing something where you're finding that this 0.2 of a second is just too long for you to wait in the actions. This is where you've got the fine control over it. And as I say, it's the first one is the time of the actual press, of the imaginary press of whatever button it is. And the second one here is the time between that imaginary press and then you going on to the next one. So that is just to explain what that is there. Hello there, Iceboy. Nash Godfrey, great to see you, and you're welcome. So let me have a little look. So your local tire center. I want to press one button on the Stream Deck to automate sending an email to a specific address. You certainly can book time anytime, yeah. So I can add a little link into that. So, yeah, I do consultations, obviously. And there it is, takeonetech.io/consultation. But let me just try and answer the question, though, shall I? Because you want to press one button on the Stream Deck to automate sending an email to a specific address. That's an interesting one, actually, because let's try that. Because what we can do is if I create a multi-action, we'll give this a go. Create new multi-action. So the first thing we want to do in this sense is we want to create a new email. I'm going to assume you're using mail.app. You could do this if you were using Gmail. If we were using Gmail, then the first step would be to obviously open Gmail. So in that case, you would go to a website and you could add in Gmail. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open mail.app. So there we'd go for choose. And we go to mail.app. So if I search for mail, somewhere in here. Okay, now I say open. This open command, actually, if you have got, the application is already open, what this does is it actually brings the app to the front. So it's kind of open or actually activate as well. He says nearly knocking over his water. So we're activating mail. Then what we'd do is Command N would create a new email. So what we could do then is you might want to add a delay in as well, because as we've mentioned, if mail wasn't open, maybe you want to add a couple of seconds in there, 2 to 3 seconds, just to give it time to open. Then we're going to use Hotkey. So the Hotkey would be Command N to create a new mail. And then you are wanting to basically, when you create a new mail, let me just check this up a second. Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. I'm just getting some very helpful thing. Turn off the comment. That helps. So what I want to do here is, thanks, Rich. If I create a new email, yeah. So when you create a new email, it's going to go into the to field to begin with. So when you've created a new email, then what we're going to do is we want to add in then. Now, then you would type in text, because that's the one that's going to trigger typing in a string of text. So then you would put in this case, you want to send to a specific address. So then you would type in whatever the email address was, like that. And then that would then that would effectively type that into that field. Then what you would do is you would then want to go and tab into the, presumably I don't know if you'd want to even add in a subject. So if you wanted to add in a subject, then you'd need to tab twice. So we'll add in a hotkey. And the hotkey we'll put is tab. Can we do it in here? Might have to search for the drop down. So there we've got the tab. Then you would want to actually tab again, because I think tab goes to CC and then tab would go to the subject. So then you would do that again, hotkey, and then just click the drop down and go tab. And then that would take you to the subject line then. So if you've got a stock subject that you're going to put in every time, you would then do another text one. So if you want a specific subject, and then you would do hotkey to tab again. And that would take you into the body. And then you could then, maybe if it's always to the same person, if this is what this is for, then you would do text. And you go, hi, Chris. And then return like that. And then, so that basically that sequence now, if I were to press that, what that should do is, if I just press that button, now where did I put that now? Which one of those was it? It was not that one. Was it that one? This is why you should always name your shortcuts. That was the one there. So this was the male one. Let's try this. Let's see if this is going to work. I probably have not put enough of a delay in, but it's done it. So that is just opened up that email. It's typed in email 2. It jumped over, typed the subject in, and then started the email. So so that is how you could do that with that. I've got lots of things for these similar for that I do with Keyboard Maestro specifically for email stuff as well. So that would be the way that you would do that. So yeah, that's that one is open an email, then press the Stream Deck button for Gmails. Yeah, so you could you could do it in Gmail as well, and it just be with all these things. It's just a case of breaking it down in terms of what is the sequence of events that you actually take in order to go through and do whatever it is that you're doing. So you're just going to go through and just sort of and then so presumably if you are so this one and auto send. I don't know if you want to just open up an email for you to then type something. So then we've done that part. If you wanted to then actually send it as well, then it would just be a case of adding on to the end. You know, if you wanted just a stock email that you sent and you press a button and it's going to send a specific email to a specific person every time, then in that case, all you would do is what is the send for an email. So it's going to be, what is it? There is, what's the keyboard shortcut for send email? Send, Shift Command D would then send it. So if you wanted to actually have a full thing that's going to send a specific mail, then you could do it that way as well. So yeah, from an automation point of view, it's a really powerful automation tool. There's one other thing that I haven't covered on today though, which is something else that's in the store. So let's just have a little look at that, because there is also music and sound effects. So if you are using this for streaming on YouTube or wherever it happens to be, or you're making videos, then you do have the right to use this their music library. Now, it's not going to be as great as something like Epidemic. So I suppose this would be a good lead in for me to say that for all of the extensive music that you hear on my channels, which is not that much really, is it? But nevertheless, I do use Epidemic Sound. So Epidemic Sound, you basically pay a monthly fee and you get access to a massive catalogue of music and sound effects. You can hear some music in the background now though, can't you? And that has all come from Epidemic. So head over to takeonetech.io/epidemic. Yeah, it's just a really good library of high quality music. And what it means is that you are not going to have to worry about getting any copyright claims or things like that on your content, be it on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, in your podcast, wherever it happens to be. They've got a great selection of music at Epidemic. But probably countering that very little plug there, there is music available on Stream Deck. I'd say that it's not as varied and as extensive. However, if you're only looking for one piece of music or one particular sound effect, it's definitely worth checking out the Stream Deck store. I know some people get a bit, what's the word? Precious about these things, saying, oh, there's better music on Epidemic. And for sure there is. However, if the one bit of music you need happens to be on the Stream Deck store, then it would be foolish not to have a look there first. So over on the Stream Deck store, come down to music on the left-hand side, and we've got sound effects. And there is just a series of tracks. I've got to say, the only ones that I've actually used from here, because I do use Epidemic, the only ones that I've actually downloaded are ones that I've given when I've done a previous demo of this very feature. So I've obviously downloaded the first two at some point in the past to demo this. So let's have a look at this one. You can go through and there is search. It does say, actually, there's over 10,000 available. I think that's more than when I first looked at it. So there's got to be something good in there, hasn't there? So if I just come and just choose one at random, this one, Happy and Inspiring. Now, I need to turn this up so that you can actually hear it, don't I? Just bear with me 1 second. Here we go. I'll just adjust the volume for you. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, then you can go through and obviously search for something else. But if that does, then you just click on the download, and then it's going to download it, as you would expect. Click on download. There you can see it's downloading. There is exactly the same with sound effects as well. And now if I come out of here and in Stream Deck, one of the plugins is called Soundboard here. And there it's going to say play audio. So you click on play audio. And then from here, you select the file. Now, you could just play any of your own audio. If you've got your own tracks or things like that that you've downloaded, then you can just do that from there as well. But otherwise, click on choose. And what it's going to do is it's going to just open up the place on your computer where it stores these files. So there it is. What was that one we just had? It was called Happy and Inspiring. So there it is. Now, one thing you'll notice is the file type of these is a .Stream Deck audio. So it is kind of, they've made it proprietary. You can't easily just drag these out and create an MP3 of it. So although technically you have the right to use these on your YouTube videos, you do kind of have to, without going through some hassle, you have to trigger them from Stream Deck. So I'll click on this one. But now we've now got that on that particular button. So if I press the button, there we go. You are hearing that now. So that is now triggered from that particular button on the Stream Deck, and I can stop it. And as I say, you've got the right to use it on your all your channels. But if you were going to try and add this in an edit, then obviously it's a little bit tricky. There is a way that you can do it, but it's a little bit long-winded, and I'm not sure that technically it's within their terms of service or not. But obviously you've got to have a Stream Deck and be using a Stream Deck to use all of this music. But there is a way that you can kind of extract these. So that is just another little feature that you have of Stream Deck. And like I say, although the range of music, the quality of music might not be quite there with Epidemic, if you find the one bit that you need, it's certainly worth looking it out. So let's have a little look. So use this instead of Keyboard Maestro. So that would be you're talking about the little automation thing that I did there. Yeah, you can do it. I just tend to use Keyboard Maestro because I use it for everything. So it's kind of like my go-to place to put everything, and then I know it's all there. And then I tend to just trigger things from the Stream Deck rather than build them all out in there. You also get a bit more flexibility in terms of all that stuff I was talking about with delay and all that kind of thing, you can do that from there as well. Incidentally, with Keyboard Maestro, not to make this too much about Keyboard Maestro, one of the things you can do with Keyboard Maestro, though, is you can actually have it click or activate a menu command in an application that isn't the frontmost application. And if you remember when I was talking about the shortcut key that you've got in Stream Deck, which was over here, let me just come to a fresh page where it's a little bit less cluttered. We've got the keyboard shortcut, which was in System, and this was Hotkey. So this is where you can basically trigger a hotkey. And so if you think about something that might be in the menu in the Mac, then they've obviously generally, it'll tell you what the keyboard shortcut is associated with that. And anything you can do with hotkeys, usually that you can find it in the menu tree as well. So the issue with using hotkeys is they rely on the application that you're trying to control being the active application, because unless it's you can set global shortcuts, but generally, if you open an app and you're using the built-in shortcuts, then they are just going to be controlling, the app when it is at the front. With Keyboard Maestro, though, what you can do is you can use. Let me see if I can just quickly pull this one up. If I go back over to Keyboard Maestro, and let me just delete these actions from here. We'll just do this, and then if I do this one, menu, select or show menu item. Now, what this allows you to do is basically trigger anything from any menu of any application that's open, even if it is not the frontmost application. So here you can see it says, at the moment it says in front application, but what I could do is I could just come over to, let's say, Discord. And then what you do is you would look for the menu title. You can actually go into the menu tree, though, just by clicking on this, which is off the screen. Let me move this over so you can see it. So I've selected Discord, and now it's giving me the whole menu tree of Discord. If I go into Discord there. So now we've got all these different things. So undo, redo, view, reload, window. So and there's not actually a huge amount of things that I can access in there. So it's maybe a bad example. Ecamm Live would be another example, though, although they've got a really great plugin, or Chrome. So you can come and just basically access, this is just the full menu tree of those applications. So what that means is you can create a Keyboard Maestro macro that just purely goes and triggers a menu item in an application. And the point here is even if it isn't the frontmost application. So an example of where I've used that in my Stream Deck would be if I go into my YouTube icon set. So I'll come over here. So what I did was I often find that I'm watching YouTube videos because I'm watching tutorials. I'm studying at the University of YouTube, and I'm watching the YouTube in the background whilst I'm actually doing what they're talking about in the video. Or it might be that I'm just watching something in the background while I'm working on something else. But I want to be able to have full control over YouTube, even if it isn't the active application. Because there are controls for YouTube in the browser, for forward, backwards, and pause, speed up, all that kind of stuff. But you do have to have that as the active application. And so what I wanted was a set of controls so that I can be doing something on the computer while still having full control over the YouTube player in the browser. And so all of these controls that I created here are basically Keyboard Maestro controls, and they trigger a particular macro in Keyboard Maestro. So here it's triggering, here it is triggering, if I can get my words out, here it is triggering the macro called YouTube toggle full screen. So in Keyboard Maestro, I've then got set up a macro for it to toggle the full screen in YouTube. And so when I press that button and I'm watching a YouTube video, it obviously toggles it full screen. We've also got play, pause, skip. We've got it to go to a specific point. We've got it to skip through timestamps. So when you're watching stuff with timestamps in YouTube, then I've got these buttons to basically go to the next or the previous timestamp, and so on. Speed up, slow down, all of that kind of thing. Go into the theater view or whatever they call it. And indeed, that's one of the icon packs that is available in my store as well. And with that particular icon pack, because it is all built around Keyboard Maestro, I also include the Keyboard Maestro macros and also the icon pack and the Stream Deck profile. So basically, if you've got Keyboard Maestro, download KM Link on the Stream Deck, and then you just import the profile and import the Stream Deck macros, the Keyboard Maestro macros, and then you can just control the YouTube from your Stream Deck. So that is one of the advantages. I forget how I get onto this now. That is one of the advantages, though, of using Keyboard Maestro. Yes, it's this pointed, isn't it? Use this instead of Keyboard Maestro. That's why I tend to use Keyboard Maestro, just because for me it's easier to go and create all of those things in there. And as I say, the same would go for the shortcuts as well. Being able to trigger things. If you use shortcuts, you can do it there. But there is a huge amount that you can do just using the Stream Deck itself. One other little thing, because I find that I'm often going in and out of a Stream Deck. You can actually just open up the Stream Deck application to just by having a Stream Deck button which is open, and open Stream Deck. And I don't know why I didn't think of that before, because Stream Decks just open all the time in the menu bar. But if you use that open command, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Come into this profile here, go to this next page. There we go. Right. So what I mean is, if I come into Stream Deck, come into the system, where is it? Open, and then when I choose open, I choose Stream Deck, the Stream Deck app. So I'm just going to search for Stream Deck app in applications. Where's it gone now? Stream Deck.app. It should be here. There it is. So I'm just opening the Stream Deck app. And what that does is, if you find that you're constantly going in and out of Stream Deck, like as into this app, you can actually set a button to open itself up. So if I close this down now, and then I press that button on the Stream Deck, it's going to open that up again. So I found that was useful. I didn't realize that for like 10 months of me going in and constantly opening it, and I'd open it from the menu bar, but you can open it from there. One other thing that I'll talk about, though, is I talked about switching profiles, and how I find that's the best way to organize all the different use cases I have. But if you are using the Stream Deck pedal, then this is actually a great way to switch between the different profiles that you've got for the pedal. So just in case you missed it earlier, or in case you weren't aware, as well as the regular Stream Deck device, there is also a Stream Deck pedal. And that looks like this. And basically, you've got three different buttons. There's a big central one and one on either side. It's sort of spring loaded. It actually comes with different springs so that you can swap them around and give it sort of different tension. But this is what I've been using to magnify my screen and switch different scenes and things like that as well. So that is the Stream Deck pedal. So what you can do is you can create different profiles for the pedal, but how do you go about switching those around, and how do you know what you've got on each pedal? Well, just as we have been controlling the regular Stream Deck here, if I come to this Stream Deck XL just up at the top and switch to the pedal, you can see that here you've basically just got three buttons, and in exactly the same way as we've been doing before, you can just literally just drag and drop any action onto any button that you want. So this is how you can program that. But you've obviously only got three buttons then. It's really useful to be able to switch between them. So at the moment, I want to have these actions, but sometimes I might want to switch out and do something else with them. Well, what I've done is, just as we have with the regular Stream Deck, I've also got myself a series of profiles just for the pedals. That's what all of these are as well. And the thing that I want to show you is, just as you can switch profiles on a regular Stream Deck, you can also control the profiles on any other Stream Deck from another as well. So if I go into Stream Deck here, and I'll go to switch profile, you'll notice that the default says this device. So we're just going to be switching profile, and if I click on here, it'll bring up all of the list of profiles that I've got on this actual Stream Deck itself. But what I can do is I can come down here and actually switch on the pedal instead. And so there, it's going to give me a list of all the different profiles that I've got on the pedal. And so by pressing a button on my regular Stream Deck, I can switch the profile on the pedals that are under my feet. And what I actually did was I then created a sort of little screen. So let me come out here, go into this page here. I've got these two buttons. The first one here, or this one over here, is for me to change my my pedal profile. So if I click on that one, that's basically taking me through to a profile on my Stream Deck that's got switches to switch to any of the other profiles that I'm using on the pedal. So that's what that is doing. So now I can basically just switch these out. If I'm doing my Amazon show, then I press this one, and what it's going to do is change the profile that's on my pedal. And I'll show you that in action in a moment. But the other one that's quite useful to have in here, if I just get back to that, is I've got this one, which is a little button that when you press it, it actually shows you a graphical representation here floating on screen. And in fact, let me just move that out of the way. It does just float anywhere on the screen. It shows you your pedal and shows you what actions you've got on each pedal. So that's useful if you are switching between different profiles. It's useful to have there as a little guide just so that you can see like, oh, which profile am I in? Because obviously there's no indicator on it as to what you're in. And that is actually from, just if I come back to here, go into this demo one for a second. I'm jumping all around. And that is, if you come into your Stream Deck actions, it's this one here called Action Bar. And when you click on Action Bar, that basically just toggles. Here it is, this little free floating one. When I press this button, it basically just toggles that on and off. So having that as a little free floating thing so you can see which one you're on is really useful. And also, by the way, if I close this down, this is something that I literally only found out this week as well. I should learn to click the buttons more. But if you click on just this little icon from this floating one, it will also open up that Stream Deck thing as well. So you can also just click that from here and it will open it up. But there you can see it's now showing me what buttons I've got assigned to my pedals. So if I now go back into that switcher page, so this is the switcher that I set up. As I press these buttons on my Stream Deck, you'll notice that it's actually switching through the actions that I've got on my pedal buttons as well. And you can see that because it's kind of jumping around. There we go. Let me go back to that one. There we go. Got there in the end. So yeah, really handy to have that little this little switcher there, and then to be able to just control the pedals from there is really useful as well. Let me just check in. So Tim, hello, first of all. Hey, Tim, great to see you. So could you do something like that for YouTube in Windows with auto hotkey? You certainly could, yeah. So I'm talking about Mac because obviously I use the Mac rather than Windows. And Keyboard Maestro allows you to send the commands to the application, even if it's not the frontmost application. But of course, you could just use a regular hotkey and have it that, on Windows, if you're watching in your browser, the YouTube still has all of these shortcuts for play, pause, and skip and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a case of getting the keyboard shortcuts for YouTube. He says, quickly searching for it, YouTube keyboard shortcuts, and then programming those in. And the article is here. So if I just drop this in, I'll just drop in the support article from Google. But this is all the keyboard shortcuts for YouTube. And so, yeah, it'd just be a case of adding these all in. I'm not sure what the equivalent for Keyboard Maestro is on the Mac, on the PC. I'm sure there's another similar kind of automation app that will, because the little trick that I was trying to do there was actually pass the command to YouTube, even if it wasn't the frontmost app. So I might be watching it, but I might be working on whatever it is I'm learning or doing or working on. But in any case, yes, those I've dropped a link to the keyboard shortcuts for YouTube, so you can find all of those. Let me just see. You can also make multi-action with the timer to change back to the original profile. Yeah, it certainly can do that. Do you know what? That's just made me think, actually. So this thing about in doing it in Windows and wanting to basically trigger the control YouTube whilst you're doing something else. One thing you could do is you could actually do a multi-action where the first action is to open or activate your browser again. Then you put the keyboard shortcut. Then you have like Command Tab or whatever the Control Tab. I don't know what the Windows equivalent is. Whatever it is to just tab back to the original application. So you could then, in that way, have the command be passed to YouTube if you're watching in the background whilst you're still working on something. And so it'd basically just do a really quick switch to the browser, enter the command, and then it would switch back to whatever application you're working in. So that would actually be another way to do that exact same thing. The Stream Deck pedal. So I had a different pedal before the Stream Deck pedal came out, which was a really generic third-party thing. I think it was about $20 or $30, something like that. It's exactly the same USB switch, basically. And then I used Keyboard Maestro to program all of the shortcuts. So I had a 3-pedal. In fact, I've still used that one at the same time. That's my left foot. My right foot is the Stream Deck pedal. But the Stream Deck pedals just made it so easy to drag and drop stuff on. It's like you don't have to go through and program anything. So it sounds ludicrous when you first tell people that you've got a pedal and you're controlling stuff with your feet as well as your hands. But once you try it, you can't live without it. The overhead camera that I've got that is showing the Stream Deck is actually, I don't know if you can see that. It is just my an iPhone 5XS, and I'm using an application called Camo by Reincubate. I should really have I've got an affiliate link for this somewhere, but it's called Camo by Reincubate, and it allows you to use your phone as a webcam. So it's just that I've got pointing down. I've got a sort of wider shot of it as well. I've really zoomed in to just show just the Stream Deck, but it's just an iPhone 5, 5XS, whatever it was that came out. Basically the same internals as a 7. So for the amount of time I use top-down shots, it works okay for that. But that is what I'm using for that. So with that said, if anyone's got any other questions or stuff they're trying to do with Stream Deck, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I've pretty much covered off the sort of overall process and flow of what I was going to cover. It is really a sort of a bottomless pit when it comes to doing the automation kind of things and using Stream Deck for productivity. But if there's anything I've missed or anything that anyone has got any further questions on, do feel free to ask in the chat, or if you're watching on the replay, in the comments or in the Discord as well. Probably a great time to mention the Discord once again, because we do have a Discord community. Head over to takeonetech.io/family to join the Discord. And that is the place where we sort of continue the conversation. I love getting all the comments on YouTube, but it's a little bit difficult to manage in terms of have actual conversations. I get alerts, or see when people comment, but it's the continuation of a conversation that just doesn't really happen in there as well. And live streams, I love doing the live stream and have like the conversation and stuff in here as well, but it's not quite the same as a proper organized threaded conversation. So whoops daisy, it doesn't cost anything to join the Discord. It's free. So takeonetech.io/family, you can head over there, and then we've got all sorts of conversations in there on all the kind of stuff that I cover on this channel, with some dedicated threads for Stream Deck stuff and all that kind of thing. If you are interested in channel memberships, then you can also check those out. Those are paid memberships for the channel as a way to show support, but also get a little extra level of access. So one of the things that we do at the Backstage Pass level is that whilst I'm live streaming, I'm also streaming into the Discord server as well, into a private little area, and then we continue the conversation afterwards. But that's the sort of highest tier. There are some other levels in there as well. Or there is also the good old Buy Me a Coffee. So you can also get memberships through there as well, or that is a way to give a one-off donation or show support for the channel. That is at buymeacoffee.com/takeonetech. I'm pressing all the buttons today. Look at this. This is the trouble sometimes with too many buttons. That was the one I was trying to put up. There we go, Butterfingers. So that is my Buy Me a Coffee link. But if there are no further questions, then I shall wrap up. But for those watching on the replay, I will leave a link to some other Stream Deck stuff. And thank you everyone for watching and for all of the great questions. As I say, if you've got any other questions, do feel free to reach out. And for those watching on the replay, I will leave a link to some other great videos. And a just final thank you to all of the great people who have supported the channel, whose names you can see up here right now. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.